Time to go outside, everyone, says Discord. Think we're going back on.
Here's a cover for you. Another one.
The Missing says, great interview with Tim Truth. Let's go look at that one. Checking out some Chief Crow here. Okay, yes. Tim Truth and Tim Osmond decoding. Oh, yes, that's the one. Decoding the mystery of the ISS. Yeah, that whole thing with the ISS, I've been right about this. I would have been talking about it, but we've been offline. But as I predicted in the book Metascript Decoded last year, there'd be a split with ISS and Russia and America no longer being friends. It'd be a crack in the sky in this flying castle, a schism, a break apart. And sure enough, the Russian media actually posted, the RIA, they posted a video that shows the Russians getting into their own little section and then breaking apart from the ISS, going their own way. Take a listen. If you're watching the screen, this is Russia threatening the International Space Station with the fake video. Now they have to say fake because people will not know that this is CGI because it's indistinguishable from what they show you as, quote, real. So this is Russia leaving this ISS in this simulation. Okay, and as you can see, the Russians have left the space station. Just like that. We broke up. There you have on the right the cosmonauts, there on the left the ISS. The ISS splitting apart. And I said this in the book, that the 42-year mark from Skylab falling, you would see a falling apart and a schism and a fracture along the lines of the space commies versus space capitalism. You've got the space commies teaming up on the moon base with their probably going to be made out of astrocrete, but China and Russia are doing a moon base. And look, now America is going to be kind of on their own here. China's got their own thing. Russia's about to split. And I've been saying that Russia's going to shoot it down. Now they've been talking about letting it fall. 500 tons of ISS landing, hopefully on Seattle. Oh, Ohio. Wouldn't mind that either. But Seattle wouldn't be a bad target. That's what I think they're going to do. And sure enough, they said, yeah, we could drop it. But now, and this actually, let me go back a little bit here. In the summer, they had reported actual physical cracks in the ISS, like fissures. And I said, look, it's all signifying that the Russians are going to split. And here you have it. Russian media putting out a video suggesting that Russia is going to split. Discord is still down, by the way. I believe I can access the voice. Let me go ahead and go into Discord voice and see if anybody's in there. Okay, I'm in Discord voice. I know the chat isn't working. Can anybody hear me? Nope. Okay, messages are failing to load. So a lot of Discord users are touching grass right now. Okay, the audio is working, by the way. Hey, let's look into some unbelievable news, but the masses will believe it because they believe everything. Vulva spacecraft concept aims to disrupt the space industry with a powerful message. Now, I thought this was a joke. I thought this was Babylon Bee, but then again, I thought Bezos' rocket was a joke. The accelerated advancement of space tourism, together with the expansion of the space industry in multiple areas around the world, is leading to all types of innovations. What may seem just like another design alternative for spacecraft is actually a feminist symbol that wants to become a game changer. Now, do you remember when they were talking about how Jeff Bezos's rocket looked like the thing? And then they started talking about how his workplace is so sexist. Well, I think this is kind of what they're trying to do here is they're trying to suggest that the women need to have, well, not women, when I say cisgendered, because there's so many assumptions built into stuff. But anyway, they say here, Dr. Hartman says the inventor of the spacecraft says the V shape makes it surprisingly aerodynamic, less drag than conventional spacecraft. It'd be made of reinforced carbon, allowing it to withstand extreme temperatures. So there's a group that's raising signatures right now, and they're hoping that the ESA will actually make this thing happen. I thought this was a joke, like I said, but let me go ahead and pull up the video of it because until I saw the video, I thought this has got to be some hoax article. But no, I watched the video, and again, I have to advise those who are believers in outer space and stuff that this is going to be a simulation I'm about to play. And you can't tell the difference between a simulation and the real thing anymore. And this is one of the reasons why I think when it comes to space movies like Moonfall, which I just watched, I think this is one of the reasons why it looks so fake when they do their rocket launches in the movies. Because what they don't want is they don't want you confusing the two. They have to make sure that the movies are about 20% faker than what they show you on the news. Okay, I'm going to go pull up this video. I didn't want to have to go here, but I'm going to go here. Again, this is the Vulva spacecraft concept. It's real, and the ESA is probably going to do it. Okay, here we go. Feminist organization seeks to support this design. A German feminist art group. This is from D Zine. So the group WBF, which stands for, and this is a German group, who needs feminism. They put this together. So they're the ones responsible for this. Now they're missing something though. I mean, we can get into the nuance here, but the truth is, the space agency, and if you're looking at the screen, this is what we're talking about. Um, Bezos's rocket's resemblance to a is not a coincidence. It is quite literally Mystery Babylon. It is a fertility cult. So when I'm looking at this stuff, I'm like, wait, these people they're right. They're righter than they know. Let me go ahead and play the video, and then we'll go on from here. Again, this is only a simulation. But strangely, one more thing before I play this video, it looks realer than what we've been shown from SpaceX as of late. I've seen videos on YouTube and in Twitter of the Starship landing, and people think it's real until somebody tells them it's not real. They have to be told this. And I look at it and I'm like, I can't tell. It looks just as real as the other thing, but the difference is the camera is what gives it away. You see, when you're dealing with a gigantic tower landing on the Earth by blasting its engines on the bottom, there's this heat that you would expect to be beneath it. Right below the rocket, you would melt if you were just right below it. Yet we get these views of the rockets that you couldn't get with a drone camera because the drone camera would totally melt. But we get those, and that's usually the giveaway it's a hoax, or it's fake, or it's a simulation. JT33 says, I'm tired of dong rockets. Vagina rockets are much more appealing. Well, this is actually called a Vulva Spaceship. Let's be scientific here. This is what they called it. Again, this is from a German feminist group. This is not real. Don't let your space-bleeding friends get confused. But this could be real.
Oil and electricity prices are soaring, and the climate crisis is threatening our very existence. Meanwhile, billionaires are flying into space in rockets shaped like male genitalia.
So billionaires are flying into space in rockets shaped like male genitalia. Okay. Cis male. Now, again, what are we looking at here? This is not a coincidence. This is Osiris. It's not even a joke. They joke about this in the news. I remember William Shatner was joking to Anderson Cooper about how he was going to inseminate the space program, as though that makes any sense. It makes no sense unless you know what you're actually looking at. The thing is, the reason they don't have the female counterpart is that the goddess is actually represented by the night sky, Isis. So these feminists have it all wrong, but let's go ahead and play this.
For us, this raised some very important questions. Shouldn't space be for everyone? And is a phallic-shaped rocket really the best way of getting there? We want to restore gender equality to the cosmos, so we've decided to revolutionize space travel forever. Introducing the Vulva Spaceship. Together with scientists and space engineers, we have developed the first spaceship shaped like female genitalia. Tests in our wind tunnel have revealed that our unique vulva design is far more effective than traditional rockets.
So it's far more effective. Yeah, anyway, this is an actual feminist organization, so I didn't make this up. It's so divorced from reality. I thought it was a parody, but then every time I watch SpaceX, I'm like, is this real or is this a parody? Like when they sent that Tesla Roadster into space. Can you say that was any less ridiculous than this? And it's all just theater anyway.
We aim to lobby the European Space Agency, encouraging them to help realize this project. To do this, we need 500,000 signatures pledging support for our cause. Please sign the petition and share the project so we can show the world that...
Yeah, I would sign your petition, lady, but my pen is shaped like a dong rocket. If I had a pen shaped like one of your V spaceships, maybe. Unbelievable. Yeah, this is one of these things where, is it real? Is it fake? Is it parody? The real stuff seems parody. It's at some point recently, perhaps, maybe within the last 2 years, parody became mainstream. Or parody became real, and real became hate speech. Yes, if you're real, if you point out facts, they hate the word fact more than they hate the word flat. More than they hate the word fake. JT33 says this has to be a joke. Well, you know what? I guarantee you they're going to have 500,000 feminists signing it. But what if feminism was just a joke? All right, let's see here. Oh, by the way, the NASA group, or actually it wasn't even a group from NASA, the group that was tracking the space junk that hit the moon, they actually reported that, yes, it hit the moon, but we're not going to know because it hit the dark side, the far side of the moon. Mr. Gray, who runs Project Pluto, there's that word again, Pluto, the name. See, Pluto returned on 2/22/2022 on a Taco Tuesday. And now we have this. Project Pluto was the company that was tracking the space junk that hit the moon. So that's interesting. And the significance of Pluto is Hades. And Hades creates and releases the Kraken. Discord is back online. Okay, excellent. Discord is back. False alarm, it's not back. Space junk just dug a big new crater on the moon, astronomers say. Yeah, you know what would be great? Is if they just said, hey, look, there's a new crater on the other side of the moon. And when we go there, we're going to have to go over it. So we're going to need to build a bridge across this crater. And they could get people, they'd get you, or the taxpayer, to buy a bridge on the far side of the moon to cross this new 65-foot wide crater. What a scam. And I saw something else about NASA is examining or opening up some container with moon dust in it. And I'm like, or a piece of the moon. I'm like, wait, what is that? Because every moon rock they brought down has been petrified wood. So what are we looking at here? That's the reason why NASA keeps such tight control over all of the moon rocks. Woman sues NASA over moon dust. Yeah, they really control this stuff. This is like a controlled substance, the moon dust. And the reason why is that you might find out it's sawdust. So, what are we looking at here? Look at this here. NASA has a history of seizing lunar material from citizens. They have a SWAT team that goes around collecting bits of the moon. And it's because what? They don't want you to find out that the moon is made of wood? Or they don't want you to find out that the landings were probably hoaxed. I mean, take your pick. Look, if you're a moon landing believer, and I suspect many of the newbies here are, the randoms in the chat, the moon's made of wood by your science because they brought back moon rocks that turned out to be petrified wood. Look for yourself. Moon rocks, petrified wood. And this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is from phys.org. The Dutch National Museum made an embarrassing announcement last week when one of its most loved possessions, a moon rock, turned out to be fake. Just a piece of petrified wood that's never been near the moon. This was given to the former Prime Minister in 1969 by Armstrong, Collins, and Aldrin. So these three astronauts give the Prime Minister there a moon rock, and it's been on display for decades. How many people have been lied to about this? This is like a holy relic in their religion, and they believe this stuff. So if you believe people landed on the moon, then you therefore must believe that the moon is made out of wood. So you got your wooden moon. Anyway, the wooden moon was hit by a piece of space junk a little while ago. That was my point. Let's see here. Anybody following this drama with? Oh, let's get into this. Pete Davidson. Kanye West did a video where he simulated killing Pete Davidson, and I'm like, Kanye West is uncomfortably close to this whole Kardashian O.J. Simpson drama, that whole side of the PSYOP entertainment complex. And I'm wondering, is Kanye going to go OJ? Is Kanye going to go drive off into the sunset in a white Bronco after dealing with this Pete Davidson thing? And I remember it was about a few months ago, O.J. Simpson was let loose, and I thought, O.J.'s on the loose. Maybe there's a story here. And then Kanye's walking around with that white mask looking like he stepped out of the movie Halloween, like Mike Myers, the Knife Man. And this was a real ominous Halloween season. You had Sir David Ames getting knifed 17 times. You got Draco the Ruler knifed in the neck backstage at Out of Time in Los Angeles. Anyway, look at this picture here of Kanye West in an orange jacket next to Elon Musk wearing a black shirt with an orange on it. What does this mean? Well, I don't know it yet specifically, but I'm leaning towards something having to do with maybe we're going to see another O.J. Simpson-like episode.
Here's a weird question for you.
That's what I'm thinking. Also, I want to bring this out. Pete Davidson lost his father on 9/11, and this is the guy who stole Kim Kardashian. And Kanye's acting very psycho about this whole thing. He's dating basically what they were calling a Kimitator. Kanye West confirms new romance with Kim Kardashian clone, basically. I'm like, wait a minute here. They're calling her a Kimitator. More of this bizarre mirroring. Everything's got a mirror. There's so many twins. And if you didn't follow this, at the very beginning of February, on the 2nd, so on 2/2/2022, a 22-year-old was shot by the police. His name was Amir Locke, because the police had a no-knock warrant. So the name Locke has significance here. They shoot him right there on his couch at 6:48 a.m. Well, put that up to a mirror. 648, 846. So another Twin Cities killing by the police was George Floyd. Kneeled on for 846. So you got 846, a mirror of 648. The guy's name is a mirror. Twin Cities. So this is where it really started. So I'm just suggesting here that we're looking at some kind of psyop in progress, and the fact that he's got this mirror thing attached to it kind of stands out. But anyway,
Fucking.
Pete Davidson, I actually don't want to play this. It's crazy when you listen to it. Maybe I'll have the subtitles on. You know, Bob Saget made these jokes about basically raping and killing children. I mean, you probably heard Bob Saget's so-called jokes. Pete Davidson's just as bad. So this is like Club Pizzagate. I'm not a Pizzagator. You know, I don't believe in that stuff. But if you're a Pizzagate investigator, look into Pete Davidson. Pizza Davidson. I almost don't want to play some of the stuff that he says here. So this is a video on a channel called Everything Comedy. Pete Davidson talks about losing his father. So he talks about losing his father, but what he actually talks about is it's just borderline. What do you want to call this? It's just so disgusting. Everything today just. Let me just play this line. It's not as bad. I mean, this is worse than that
Sat on my
rocket.
face naked or nothing.
Right after.
Okay, yeah, this is worse than the rocket we were just talking about. But this is Pete Davidson talking about his father who died on 9/11.
With mine, like once or twice. Like, I didn't get all these moments. I imagine everybody's like, that's not what you do with your dad, dude.
But
He never sat on my face naked.
Okay, that's Pete Davidson having this gross conversation that's supposedly comedy about his dad. Again, just typical SNL. And you know, no, look, SNL is just full of psychos. But you know who never really got his comeuppance was Jimmy Fallon. Wasn't Jimmy Fallon and his buddy Horatio Sands involved in grooming young girls? Horatio Sands' lawsuit is an explosive story about SNL. Yeah, this is the one where Jimmy Fallon was named in this Horatio Sands sexual assault thing. Total side note, but yeah, SNL is run by a bunch of perverts, if you didn't know. Horatio Sands' accuser takes the stand. Look, this is crazy. Takes aim at the entire cast. So it's not just him. And this is how it is with all these news agencies. You think that Don Lemon is the only weirdo on that set? No, and you can just tell. Look, I could look at this picture and I could tell you, okay, don't let them babysit. Jimmy Fallon and Horatio Sands at Elle magazine party in 2002. But yes, there's a Jane Doe who's revealed that a bunch of after parties took place where they were hanging out with people who are too young. Let me go through some comments. Discord is back, says 12K. I don't think it's back. God was bored, says SNL has always been disgusting. We just never noticed. Yeah, and it was never funny, and a lot of us didn't notice right away. You know, I look back at this stuff and I just think, yeah, we were turning a blind eye, or you know what it might have been. It's just the fact that we have the internet now allows us to communicate with one another. Like, hey, did you see something? Yeah, I saw it too. All right, let's see what else we have here. It's been a few days, so I have a lot of catching up to do. We had a costume change, PPE into military uniforms. All the anti-vax experts are now foreign policy experts. And just like that, Putin cured COVID. Thanks, Putin. Shout out to Putin for changing the media's priorities, because it's all just a mind virus. Weaponized hypochondria. OB Ninja says, yay, back on. Yeah, we're keeping this on, this chat and the 24/7 stream, in case Discord goes down. This is kind of an informal live stream hangout, just to make sure that we're all on the same sheet. If you're not on the text message alerts, go to infiniteplane.radio and sign up. Hillman Avenger says, the only real wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Yeah, imagine if you knew everything about 9/11 truth and 9/11 in 2010. You would have known nothing, because it would have taken a few more years for all the facts to come out to show that there were no planes. Fruits, yeah, says this man is spitting facts. Yep, watch the chat too. 9/11 was a hoax, and they call it a false flag because they want to change the dynamic. This is key here. No other channel will say this. Alex Jones and all these mainstream conspiracy channels won't say this. They'll say it's a false flag. No, it's a hoax. And here's the difference. If you say it's a false flag, you're meaning that it actually happened, but someone else did it, aka a false flag. This implies victims, dead people, and a victimizer, the bad guy. Well, my point is this. If you remove the victims and replace them with crisis actors, then your bad guy is merely a scapegoat red herring. And in this case, in the case of a hoax, the only victims are the viewers. You're the casualty of a psy-war. The media is the victimizer. So, yes, you would know nothing if your frame of reference was given to you by establishment-approved conspiracy theorists who hide the fact that they're using theater and stagecraft, not actual violence in these provocative events. Diana South says, new user guidelines, Discord will no longer be for free-thinking, accurate observers of reality. Yep. This is happening on my phone. I'm getting all these blue and yellow apps coming up. This is how I knew the thing was a psyop. Look, if something is led with some kind of a hashtag and something for your profile pic, it's probably a psyop. If all the NPCs suddenly change their profile pic and they're all in solidarity, yeah, it's probably a psyop. I saw on my phone, I have this app, it's called Speechify, and I sort of recommend it. I love hate it because you can just take a picture of something, as in a photo of a book, and it'll read it to you. So if you don't have an audiobook version of a book, or you have to listen, you have some boring instructions to read, you just photograph it with Speechify, and then Speechify will read it to you. Well, my Speechify app turned blue and yellow for Ukraine. And I don't support Ukraine. I don't care at the moment. So I'm like, well, I don't approve of this. But anyway, Speechify is a great app, except it's read in the voice of Gwyneth Paltrow, if you don't mind that. By the way, Gwyneth Paltrow and Alex Jones have something in common. Let me bring this up. So, Gwyneth Paltrow and Alex Jones are both selling the same exact supplements. He calls his Super Male Vitality, and she calls hers Scented Sex Scoop. Gwyneth Paltrow and Alex Jones are healing America's political divide. They're not that different after all. So, I mean, it's not even a new story. This has been known for some time. It's just white labeled products. So, he gets his Super Male Vitality extract from the same supplier. So you're basically looking at the same stuff, but it's sold through two very different personas. And my point being, these are the same. Alex Jones is just as mainstream as Gwyneth Paltrow. But they don't want you to know that. They want you to think he's fringe. Let me go through some comments. Art of Thinking Out Loud says, like all the fake dead people in body bags moving around to film crews being exposed on TikTok. Yeah, I've seen some of that. And even without that, because I've seen music videos being released as fake news, or people are mistaking fake news for real fake news. Because you have fake news that the public believes in. Then you have fake news, which is what the fake news does to fake out the people calling out the fake news. So you got to make sure that you're vetting all the info properly. Charles Wilhite says, Tim, you should interview Maria7777. She's the female you. All right. I will take a look. Post a link, by the way. Post a link in the chat. I'm always looking at new channels, and you can also post it in Discord. Jungle Jim says, first ever official artwork being sent to the moon later this year. Second version in NFTs to be sold immediately after. You know what? Someone here should just sell the moon as an NFT before somebody else does. Make the moon into a non-fungible token and put it up at a very high price, and then get one of your friends to buy it or mark up the. This is what they do. I think they call it bid washing. Melania Trump did this. Bid washing. I didn't even know what this was until I read about Melania doing it. Basically, what they do is they buy an NFT from themselves, pretending it's not themselves, and then it artificially inflates the price. Melania Trump and the art of the NFT grift. Yes, Melania Trump is an NFT grifter, and she was exposed purchasing her own art for $185,000. Did Melania Trump buy her own NFT at an auction? The winning bid auction came from a virtual wallet that belongs to the same organization that launched the product. The former First Lady starting the auction last month, offering a public chance to own artwork of non fungible tokens. Well, she funged that one. That one was fungible. Anyway, she's a scam artist. No surprise here. Look who she's married to. And if you don't think Trump's a scam artist, then you don't know what politicians do for a living. Hackers target 300 Russian websites and offer troops £40,000 to surrender tanks. Why is the media also mixing up so much fake, obviously fake footage with real footage? You get images from years ago, they just flip it and release it. Oh, this is a new bomb. No, that looks like a bomb from 2015. Kind of like Wayne Sexton of mushroom clouds. The same mushroom cloud at every major terror attack. If you don't know, Wayne Sexton's the crisis actress who shows up at every other mass shooting. It's like, how many kids does she have? My Twitter account is Real Tim Osman, and I'm posting a lot of these images there. So, for example, look at this. This is Belgrade 1999, and compare it to Kyiv 2022. Same photo, flipped horizontally. Lazy, lazy Photoshop. But I think this is the standard because we were never able to call it out before. I think that's the key here. We have to understand that the media was never fact-checked until the internet. Really, that's what's prompting this exposure. Because they were always this bad. Crisis actors have always been terrible. Visrut says, "How is you, bro? Thanks for joining." Charles White says, "Alex doesn't take his, Gwyneth does." No, Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. I think we all know this. Ask yourself this question. What's more likely, that Alex Jones is 46 and taking all these very healthy supplements, or that he's 60 and he's Bill Hicks? And just look closely at his face. Does this look like the face of a 46-year-old or a 60-year-old comedian, CIA asset, PSYOP entertainment complex operative? Or did Sex Scoop do that to his face? And do you know how much money Alex Jones made? I think he made $156 million selling Sex Scoop. InfoWars store raked in $165 million over the last 3 years. So here he is begging you, please send me money. I'm being sued by the Sandy Hookers, even though I backtracked and I'm saying that it was actually real, and if you call it a hoax, you're a psychopath. So Jones stabbed all his listeners in the back. He stabbed the truth in the back. Asks for money because he's being sued by these people. He doesn't want to give them any money. And yet he raked in $165 million in Sex Scoop in the last 3 years. How many of you made $165 million in the last 3 years? COVID is really good for InfoWars. Let me see. I'm going through some comments here. Hazel says Discord is back. I don't know. No, it's not back fully. You can log into Discord, but the messages are not loading. Fruits Yeah says, are you a conspiracy theorist or you just talk about this stuff? Well, the mainstream media is a conspiracy theorist. The media itself promulgates nothing but conspiracy theories. There's a 33-year-old conspiracy theory about how the ocean level is going to rise because you're not recycling and you're still burning the dino juice. It's called global warming. And they said that the ocean level is going to rise up and swallow Florida by 2012. Did that happen? No, it was a conspiracy theory. There are many other conspiracy theories we could point out, but they're called conspiracy theories only if they conflict with the mainstream media conspiracy theories. Truth is a conspiracy theory if you go by the MSM's definition. So no, I'm actually a media analyst at this point. I'd say our channel's very philosophical because we're trying to discern reality from deception, from illusion, from misconception. And it seems like our world is run by popular misconceptions deliberately spread through this monolithic media. People are deliberately put into a false worldview. So I'm not the conspiracy theorist for pointing it out. And the conspiracy theorists, so-called, are right. And we have been this whole time. That's the reason why they're calling us conspiracists. It's all an attack. They want you to think, oh, if you don't believe the moon landing, you're a racist. Well, I'm sorry, but the moon landings were faked. You can tell by the video. And if you can't tell, then you're visually illiterate. And two, the moon rocks were all made out of wood. So until somebody can explain wooden moon rocks, I don't want to hear their moon conspiracy theories. If you believe we landed on the moon, you are a conspiracy theorist. How about that? Let me play some voicemails. Okay, that guy apparently needs to be rescued from the trunk of his car. Thinks he's a penguin says, I think I made $165 from my couch last year. I spent it on Sex Scoop. Now, did you sell your couch, or was that money morgiled nimbly from between the couch cushions? If you don't know what morgiling is when you get your change from in between the couch cushions. Usually it's a desperate thing. Like you really need it. Named for John the Morgile, who made his living by couch surfing, an inveterate couch surfer who paid his way through morgiling. Lily Bell says, is this live or is it nuked? Oh, nukes are fake, by the way. There's a white pill for you. So if you were up, afraid, scared for your life all night, can't sleep, doing drills with your family, getting ready for the fallout, getting your masks and all that, look, I'm not with you on that at all. Nukes are fake. Now, they can simulate things, sure. Anything they can do in the movies, they can do on the news. And if they do it on the news, they can convince people it's real. And that's kind of the world we live in. So while I don't think I'm going to be nuked, I won't be surprised if I'm mandated to wear a mask for radioactive fallout. Oh, yeah. You'll put down the COVID mask, but you're going to put on the fallout mask. So don't think that they're going to walk any of this stuff back. A 33-year-old Ukrainian film star killed in Russian shelling. I noticed a number of conspicuous 33s, as always, with all these staged fake events. That's the hoax code. It means they're wagging the dog. But that guy was a voice in the Ukrainian version of Lion King. And so I'll get into that later. But the movie Macbeth and Lion King have some relationship to the present state of the world stage, which we'll go into. Oh, by the way, Pete Davidson's going to space with Jeff Bezos. So he can fly up into space, well, so-called space. It's just a parabolic flight. But he can hang upside down with his mouth open and let Jeff Bezos throw Skittles into it. How many of you watched that? Jeff Bezos apparently brought a pocket full of Skittles, and while they're in space, he's throwing Skittles into the mouth of that 19-year-old who spent $29 million on the ticket. It's the most awkward thing in the world. So here's on the screen. You've got the 19-year-old upside down, and he's awkwardly splayed out. And you'll see here in a moment. It's just, to me, I'm just like, wait, you're going to spend all this money for this view to see the Earth from space, see how fragile it is, see what we're doing to it with all of our consumerism. And no, you're going to spend it awkwardly being a target for Bezos' little weird Skittles game. Here it is. I mean, like, okay, So anyway, this is supposedly in outer space, and this was a $29 million thing. It's like being in a crowded elevator for $29 million. Like, I would rather have some kind of subterranean infrastructure built. Build me my own Truman Show and make it look like the moon. You could build a moon base for 29 million, but no, you're going to go on a 30-second joyride with all these interesting old people and their weird ideas about what you should do up there. I mean, look at this. It's like zero-G Twister. And there's Bezos. He caught it in his mouth. You got to see this. Look, it's kind of blurry, but he's snapping Skittles out of the air. I guess to prove they're in space. Looks like a frog catching flies. All right, anyway, let's move on. Fruits, yeah, says, do you believe there is space? Finbar says, pedos in space. JT33 seems like a choking hazard. Yeah, imagine if Bezos had choked to death up there. What an embarrassment. This is why I think it's fake. You think they actually sent 90-year-old Captain Kirk to space? If they killed Captain Kirk, it would have killed the space program. Now, if anybody here believes in outer space, I don't have any evidence for it, but please present it. And while you're at it, explain to me why the ESA has a shadow beneath the space station, but none of the other agencies do. Terrifying alien creature found on Sydney streets after massive rain. You know, we've been talking about squids from space. So, about it, this isn't from me either. This is how, look, this is how disconnected from reality the true believer in outer space actually is. So, if you didn't know, the space station is actually filmed underwater when they do the spacewalks. There's a scale model version of it. So you have this occasional thing happen where people will see things in the background, usually bubbles. And you got these guys on YouTube who will say, oh, that's not a bubble, that's a UFO. So anyway, there was a video that came out, and I'll pull it up here. Dragons on the ISS, where these people actually believe that this thing in the background is a dragon in space. Well, I'm sorry, but dragons wouldn't have to flap their wings if they were in space. Wings would be useless in the fictional or hypothetical environment of outer space. But that's the conclusion they run to. But I'm looking at it, and I'm going to bring this video up for you. And it looks like an octopus underwater. So yes, I have a video, which I'm going to show you, of an octopus by the space station. So again, if you rule out that the space station is in space, and you recognize the obviousness of the lighting giving away that this thing is underwater, then what's more likely? Dragon in space or octopus in a pool of water? And what's more, last year Elon Musk was actually sending octopuses into space. I think they sent, or baby squids actually. Which seems to me like maybe it's some kind of an inside joke. Jungle Jim says Shatner can work a crowd better than most. He's fun. Oh yeah, I like William Shatner. I'm not going to believe he went into space until I see some evidence. And what they showed us wasn't evidence. Okay, here we go. Found it. I had to scroll down quite a bit on my Minds account. Mirror Week, Space Squids, Donda 2, and Portals. And then we have this. We have this lady. I have to bring this lady up with the head wound. The face of this disaster. Finbar says first it was mice, now squids. Yeah, you know that the Mousegate thing was never solved either. They never fully explained that one away. Mice on the outside of the space station. And the thing about that one that I can't really get over is that how is it that you can point out something as amazing as a mouse on the outside of a space station and people won't even look at it because it's not supposed to be there? Well, I'm sorry, but it's not supposed to be there. Yeah, but it's there. So are you going to be a denialist about it? And that's kind of what we have here. reality denialists. Fruits Yes says, "Are you a flat earther?" I would say no. Well, I mean, when you say flat earther, what are you talking about? Are you a globe earther? Because I would say you're a CGI earther, if anything. And really, there's a difference here that you have to acknowledge. There's belief and there is knowledge. Do you know man landed on the moon? Or do you just believe it? And the truth is, you believe it. And then the question is, why do you believe it? I don't believe the earth is flat. I just don't know it has a curve. I haven't seen any curve. If you've seen some curve, show me. If you can show me this curve, just give me a picture or give us an idea of where we can find it. You'll end this entire conversation. You think that people have been questioning the globe for 5 years because of on the internet for no reason, because they're bored, because they want to be laughed at? No, it's the lack of evidence supporting the establishment model. Like, show me the global warming, show me the ocean levels rising. Have the ocean levels risen up at all? No. So, are you a global warmist? If you're a global warmist, where's your evidence? You may believe the earth is getting warmer, but you don't know it. And the fact is, the scientists recognized this and they said it's not getting warmer, so let's call it climate change. They changed it to climate change because it wasn't obviously getting warmer in any way that they can continue to blame on the capitalist. And that's a whole other hoax we could get into. Let me play the next message.
Hey, brother. I knew you years ago. I was on your show. I heard you with Tim Truth. Good friend of mine, man. I love that man. This is level-headed. Probably don't remember me. But I listened to a portion of your show. I'm just starting it. You know, I thought you'd like drop off the edge of the earth, right? But here you are. You still exist. And
Yeah, I'm glad I went on to Tim Truth's show because this channel has been censored more than 100 times on YouTube. And I use the word censorship loosely, but yeah, we've had more than 120 channels taken down because someone else has claimed trademarks and copyright over my voice. Yes, over my voice. And YouTube has aided and embedded in this identity theft, and I'm presently in a legal dispute with YouTube. I'm waiting on a response, but basically we're going to court over identity theft. So anyway, a lot of people in the last few years have lost touch with the channel. They thought that I quit. They thought I disappeared. No, I've been here this entire time, but they wouldn't let you know this. Let me go ahead and play the rest of this message.
yeah, I heard that thing about the helicopter and the atmosphere and everything. I've got 6 years of engineering college behind me now. I got a degree. I know this shit. I know it really, really well, man. It doesn't fucking jive with the water, man. So you're screwed. Yeah, you're screwed with the binoculars. Fuck you. So, anyways, I just want to say hi. I was really, really happy to hear you. I heard your voice. I dropped into Tim Truth late in the show, and I'm like, I know this guy. It's been a long time, man. You screwed, got us, got.
Yeah, hey, he's right about this though. This is level-headed. Binoculars P900 destroyed the story about how boats go over the horizon. If boats don't go over the horizon, what's your evidence for your curve, people? Lilybell says Tim doesn't have a good attorney. I don't need an attorney. Cyber squatting is not a trial thing. It's a damage complaint. And I did a 24-page damage complaint. I already went through the district court and boom, it's in. I just got to find his address and collect. I need to get rid of execution, have him disclose his assets. That's easy. And then two, identity theft, that's a federal thing. I've already talked to the FTC, I talked to the FBI, and this guy has committed felonies, fourth-degree felonies, 60 instances, 400 instances of perjury if you look at every false DMCA complaint. So there's nothing I need to do. I'm just going to sit back and Let the process deal with him. And for those who don't know, the reason why this channel has been incredibly hard to find is that there was somebody hired by, and this is just a fact, hired by the U.S. government to screw with this channel. And I doxed the person, and the person is going to end up paying because there are statutory damages for cyber squatting, treble damages if you can prove malice, which I've proven. And anyway, if it's even close to my estimate, it's going to be enough to keep the channel on. It'll keep the lights on for the rest of the time that I do this, and I'm planning on doing this for 30 years. Lily Bell says, Tim, you need an attorney. What do you know, Lily? Every attorney I've talked to has said you don't have a case. I've had attorneys say, oh, you don't have a case. You don't have a registered trademark with the USPTO. It's like, what are you talking about? I have established it in commerce internationally for years, and I can prove malice, and I also have an admission, a confession. So I went above the heads of the attorneys that you would recommend that I go to, and I went straight pro se litigant, and I got it through. So I don't think I need an attorney. Who to give what to? It's like, okay, here we have statutory damages, 35 stolen domains, registered 3 times, treble damages, statutory damages in New York. I think it could be more than 10,000 a domain. So how much of this money should I give to some guy to tell me something that I don't need to know? This isn't a criminal thing. Now, if it's a criminal thing, I would never go without an attorney, but I don't commit crimes. This is civil, and the other part of it, again, it's federal crimes he's committed. He's committed wire fraud. I'm going to go ahead and ban Lily Bell if she asks me to get an attorney again. Because unless you're going to call me and give me some information that I don't have, but every attorney has told me, you can't do this. You don't own rights to this. You can't do that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I doxed Q because I was told by an attorney, oh, you can't get this guy's docs because Gmail will protect it. You need to get a court order. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to do a DMCA subpoena. And the attorney's like, what's that? I'm like, okay, so you don't know. You're an attorney. You don't know what a DMCA subpoena is. Now, I learned about this from CNN. It's an underutilized tool to obtain information sufficient to prosecute an infringer. So this is an article from Lutzker.com. The DMCA subpoena process, an underutilized tool for identifying anonymous infringers. So the attorneys that I went to told me, you have nothing, you lose. And I'm like, no, I'm doing this. And I did this, and I got his docs. So again, I paid a little bit of money in fees here and there, just process, paperwork, faxes. But anyway, my point is I doxed Q. And he's really close to Trump. And when that gets out, it's going to be explosive. And I did this because I don't sit around waiting for people to give me advice. And here I have some anonymous person telling me I need to be told what to do. I'm sorry. Why don't you mind your own business? No offense, Lily Bell. Or David, or whoever you are. All right, let's move on. TheVerge.com, telecoms blackout Northeast Ukraine, power outage reported. Again, all this stuff could be simulated. It's all theater of war. Oh, look at this. We were talking about Moonfall. Well, the movie Moonfall was directed by the guy who did Independence Day. We're talking about Roland Emmerich. Well, he also did a movie called Ark. And Ark is a movie about, as you'd expect, mankind ruins the earth, so we all need to get into some kind of a shelter together. All of the movies on Netflix right now are about space arcs. The movie Wall-E is about a space arc. Keep this concept in mind. Why arcs? Well, look at the characters from Don't Look Up or Moonfall. The one played by Leonardo da Vinci in Don't Look Up. These are Noahs. These are modern day Noahs saying, if you don't mitigate your carbon output, if you don't stop capitalism, the earth is going to sink like the Titanic. The earth is your ark. Spaceship Earth. So man is like, well, we're not listening because we're putting money first. So man's wickedness is going to trigger what? The floods. They've reinvented the Noah myth for a modern age, and they've given you these scientist Noahs. This is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And if you look at their iconography, their symbol is the dove. They use the imagery of Noah. They use floods. They use arcs. Noah, science, service, stewardship. Now, Noah in the Bible is represented by the dove, because the dove is what shows up after the flood. It's the post-reset symbol. All right, let's see. I'm going through some comments. All right. Look, no offense, Lily Bell, but I've already completed the process. Paperwork's already been filed. I'm not seeking legal advice. I've already made arrangements to collect. So it's like, I don't know where people are coming from sometimes. I don't mean to be annoying about it, but I have someone in the chat begging me to get an attorney, and it's like, again, you're not going to find an attorney that will take on this case. Not at all. And this is what's so annoying about relying on experts or relying on other people. I went to the FBI after death threats, nothing. And there was this one instance in 2018 where I received a threat from the person I'm suing, and the next morning, my Jeep went right through an intersection because the brakes didn't work. Now, I don't know if the brake fluid was drained by coincidence or not, but my point is, police don't do anything except take notes. FBI, they take notes. For all I know, they were shredding everything I brought them. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to find out who this guy is that has repeatedly shut down my channels, that is cyber stalking. I was not going to be able to find this guy through the conventional means. So I went to my own Discord server and I said, let's dox this person. So no, the Infinite Plane Society chat room is what figured out who this person was. That's what it took. FBI couldn't do it. I mean, I've doxed other people. Look, let me just bring this up. Well, I don't really want to. I don't want to give them attention. But there are many anonymous people out there. Like, let's just bring up Darren really quick. Let's go to conspiracies.win. So conspiracies.win is the site of Axo or Axolotl. Now, Axo used to be the top moderator at Reddit for conspiracies. Anyway, Axo was one of my stalkers, and he was constantly messing with my channels, messing with me personally. He pretended to be some Russian girl. Anyway, I doxed Axo. We actually sued him. His business, the place, the IT firm he worked at, they had to change all their phone numbers because I wouldn't leave him alone. Anyway, eventually he left Reddit and he created his own site, conspiracies.win. His real name is Darren Aldridge, and he didn't think I'd dox him after 2 years. I also got his face because he was on a school board, and I managed to find a video of one of these school board meetings where he read the pledge, and that's how I got his face, and I memed him to Timbuktu. So, no, I can dox anybody. Not anybody, but you can dox anybody. Not just me. I'm saying it can be done. Nobody's impervious. And even the best defenses are usually contradicted by some weakness in their circle. Like the guy I'm talking about. Yeah, he may be hidden pretty well, but his family's not. His brother's very public, works for Pat Robertson, so it's not like I'm not going to get to him. Maybe it'll be a family Christmas party, a reunion, but at some point he's going to get served. Anyway, let's move on. Tunex says, when do you think the ID of Q will break? Soon. Soon. There are subpoenas going into his inner circle, and I got a video, I got a screen cap that Goldfinch shared once where, look, Q, the person we know of as Q, is in direct communication with Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump. That alone should raise some eyebrows. Spirit Jordan says, I had a case that no one would touch with a 10-foot pole. I went at it and I won. Good for you. Yeah, I don't take a lot of naysayer advice. Charles Wilhite says, I listen to a lot of truthers and they say no one knows the idea of Q. Yeah, look, there's some kind of operation here with Q. It's real. It's a psyop. And this guy's identity was not meant to leak. So we're kind of a problem, if you ask me. It was not meant to leak. Now, the significance of it is this. If Donald Trump is exposed as knowing Q personally, he has no plausible deniability with regard to the 1-6 insurrection thing. Because Q, the biggest QAnon influencer, is behind George News. George News has 300,000 on its Telegram. George News is one of the main QAnon promulgators and instigators Q sent me, that whole thing. And then what's more, and I can prove this too, the whole JFK Jr. coming back to life story comes from Q, comes from this guy. In fact, I have an admission of it. So I have all my receipts. I got the case ready for the legal system when it comes to the criminal stuff, when it comes to the property rights stuff, and the civil stuff. But I also have everything ready for the court of public opinion. The court of public opinion. And think about this too. All of the Trump deranged who hate the QAnoners are going to really have a hate affair with this guy. Take a look at this meme. There was someone in the chat earlier who was kind of incredulous asking, do you think the earth is flat? And it's really not even that. This is a meme. This guy on the left says, with all the conspiracy theories turning out to be true, flat earth isn't looking so crazy. The NPC on the right says, I saw a rover on Mars, you stupid flurf, which is a derogatory term for the already somewhat derogatory flat earther. So, did the person on the right see the rover on Mars, or do they merely believe it? That's what we're getting to. This guy on the left doesn't know what to believe, because he only knows what he knows. The other guy believes what he's told to believe. So we're talking about doubting things. We're not talking about asserting things. The flat earth theory it's not even a theory, it's actually the globe earth, that's a theory. It's not even a model. The flat earth is not a model. It's the absence of a model. It's the question remaining when you've debunked what they've presented you with. It doesn't mean you have something to replace it. Look at this. I Stand With Ukraine has knocked I'm Fully Jabbed off the #1 spot in this week's Virtue Signaling Top 100 charts. And Wear a Damn Mask is now at #3, with Save the NHS slipping to #4. Blame Putin is shooting up the charts, taking #5 from Clap for Heroes. Just your update from the Virtue Signaling Top 100 charts. Okay, let's continue here. We're talking about Discord down. Now, what is this? I got a comment from Skylar Milan in Discord. This is what we do in Discord. We share research, and I'm always aware of the fact that Discord can be shut down at any time. So if there's something really good posted, I save it. I put it over here in my Minds account. So this is from Skylar. Pete Davidson, Illuminati homewrecker, government-approved laughter in the coming social credit system. He says, what does this all mean? Is Pete Davidson going to be sacrificed? Perhaps he could have a fake ritualized death. These characters are sort of golden gods, mythical beings. In the music video, Kanye's wearing an Illuminati coat. That's right. He was wearing that coat. He hates Davidson so much he wants his head on a plate. From a personal level, this could mean Davidson cheated on the Illuminati somehow. Kanye may see Kim as having cheated on him. This could be a message of betrayal and revenge and death. I think it's more of a collective story or symbolic gesture beyond the personal. Who is Davidson? He's primarily a comedian. What has been happening with comedians as of late? They've been falling in one form or another. Joe Rogan, Bob Saget, Joy Behar, Heather McDonald. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Joy Behar fell on her head. She's like, I've been triple vaxxed, and she hit her head. Just like Heather McDonald. I've been triple vaxxed, hit on her head. So what Skylar is saying here is that this means that in the coming war on memes, it's a death to comedy, death on laughter, a death for laughter. Oh, I see. Because SNL has been killing comedy this whole time. All of these government jesters have been killing the notion of comedy, and they've replaced it with government-approved comedy, which is the antithesis of actual comedy. And so, we're talking about this war on ideas and comedians being promulgators of some of the most touchy ideas, sensitive ideas. That's why you see so many gatekeeper comedians who are there to release conspiracy theories only to laugh at them or to become laughable. You got the Joe Rogans and the Alex Joneses. Why are these comedians out there? Jones being Alex, Jones being Bill Hicks, rather. Well, the comedians are part of this PSYOP entertainment complex. Look at Dave Chappelle. When was the last time Dave Chappelle told a joke? It's a conspiracy theory that Dave Chappelle was ever funny. Because all I hear from Dave Chappelle is PSYOP reinforcement. During COVID lockdowns, he said, at least there's no white kids shooting up schools. Stolen joke, by the way. I'm pretty sure we said that here. We were talking about the PSYOP entertainment complex isn't going to have any use for these bowl cut shooters. And it's only funny if you believe these things to be real. And he does. He believes these shootings are actually happening, so the joke makes sense. Well, it is kind of funny from that frame of reference. But when you know the school shootings are fake and it's all a psy-war, and it's a broader psychological warfare operation intended to not just take your weapons, but it's a war on private property, it's a schism, it's a civil war in the making. It's not comedy, it's agitprop. So Schuyler goes on to say, death to comedy, this ritual will be fulfilled. Oh, interesting. Because Pete Davidson's about to go to space. So he's saying, this will be fulfilled in space when Bezos takes Davidson. That's a fascinating point there. There is something going on with this Kanye West thing, and we'll continue to follow this story. Kanye West and his imitator, Pete Davidson, and then the Kanye West video where he kills Pete Davidson. And let me bring this just so you know where we're coming from. Pete Davidson, Kanye video. Okay, Kanye West buries Pete Davidson alive in an animated video. Ye music video depicts Pete Davidson burial. So yeah, he has his head on a plate and he buries him alive. So it's a very gruesome video. It's kind of morbid. So now let's go back to also this. Kanye West is at Donde 2 hanging out with Marilyn Manson. And this ties into everything else. Marilyn Manson, obvious Charles Manson, kind of a meme thing that they brought up here. He consciously brings that up here. So when you bring up Manson, you're thinking about these, you have these killings in 1969, inspired by a cult leader, Charles. And by the way, on the anniversary of the Manson killings this last summer, that's when the QAnon killer stabbed his kid 17 times. Not a coincidence. So anyway, it seems like there's a subtext here, where Kanye West goes Charlie Manson on Pete and Kim, and then rides off into the sunset in a white Bronco. And we'll continue along that storyline later on this evening when we take open phones, because there's quite a lot there. Yes, 28-year-old dating a Kardashian, besties with Miley, death threats from Kanye, going to space with Bezos. SNL comedian Pete Davidson joining Bezos. This is all very intriguing. Okay, let's see what else here. Here's one. Kanye releases a video of him holding Pete Davidson's head. Now there's news that Davidson's going to space with Bezos. And then there's a skit of Elon Musk where his head explodes on Mars. Right. Okay, so Pete Davidson dies on Mars. His head explodes on Mars. So here's his head, and there he is with Kanye made out of clay. And I believe his head explodes on Mars. Yep. So he did a skit about Mars where his head explodes. Fascinating. Elon Musk sends Pete Davidson to Mars in a polarizing SNL hosting gig. And this was the gig that aired the night that the space junk from China landed in the Indian Ocean. It actually landed just as Musk took the stage. Rich Flash says, remember when Stephen Hawking died on Pi Day? Right, and isn't Pi Day like the birthday of Einstein or something? There's some Pi Day connections worth looking at. Let me bring that up really quick here. Stephen Hawking's Pi Day. Yeah, because they connect all of these world stage characters together. so that however you look at it, they're all part of the same fictional universe. Hawking's death, Einstein's birth, what does it all mean? Did Hawking die on the day Einstein was born? Is it Stephen Hawking or Hawking's? Sounds like a Mandela effect. Somebody call Brian Stavely. In an unfortunate coincidence, right. How many of you believe in unfortunate coincidences still? Stephen Hawking's death on March 14th coincides with Einstein's 139th birth anniversary, while his birth on January 8th, 1942 had coincided with Galileo's 300th death anniversary. And Hawking and Einstein both lived to 76. So there you have a connection. Galileo, Einstein, Hawking, and a lot of important numbers. Linda Curtis says Stephen Hawking's voice still haunts voice chat. Stephen Hawking had a negative attitude. He said, global warming, climate change will destroy us all, so we might have to go into space, but the universe will collapse on us anyway. And even if it doesn't, and even if we survive that, the aliens will probably kill us. Massive asteroid that has potential danger will pass Earth on Friday. So heads up on Friday, don't look up. How many times have they been wrong? They've been wrong 100% of the time on their incoming asteroid predictions. But they're right on 100% of those things going out. It's a bit of an interesting discrepancy, wouldn't you say? How can they be wrong 100% of the time inbound, but right 100% of the time outbound? Doesn't quite make sense, does it? What is the difference? Well, the difference is you can fact check the inbound. You cannot fact check the outbound. Fire breaks out at nuclear complex as Russian forces move through. These headlines must have been chilling in the pre-auto hoax universe. You know, before people knew that news media could lie. There are people out there. Actually, sadly, it's probably the majority. They read headlines like this and their heart skips a beat. They duck and cover. And duck and cover also protects you from COVID, by the way. Not just nukes. You ever go to a restaurant and they say, wear your mask until you sit down? Yeah, it's because COVID doesn't go that low. So if you're ducking beneath your desk, it'll save you from school shooters, nuclear holocausts, and COVID. Someone asks if they have verified the moon crater yet, the new moon crater. No, they haven't, but I'm pretty sure they're going to sell us a bridge to cross it. It's a 65-foot crater, they say. It'll take them a little bit of time to verify it, but I'm pretty sure they'll sell us a multi-billion-dollar bridge that we'll never see. How's Dr. Fauci doing these days? Has anyone checked on him? Everyone's so distracted with this whole thing. If I was a world script writer, I would have Fauci die of COVID about now. Yes, Kanye West is dating Kimitators. He's dating Kim clones. You know who he could go date if she's still legal? Is Madonna still of legal age? She looks like she's 16 now. And people have been pointing out that Madonna looks exactly like Kim Kardashian. And yeah, Madonna's starting to look like Kim Kardashian. She's a Kimitator. So Kanye ought to go date her, assuming she's still legal again. How did she do this? Reverse aging? Is it the adrenochrome? Maybe this whole thing has just been an adrenochrome promotion. Anyway, let's move on. There's a bit of a double standard about her and her looks, and she's an aging pop star or whatever, but 60 is not old, in my opinion. We're not talking about age mitigation. We're talking about pumping her face full of stuff, and it changes her very looks. Okay, 33 people killed in a missile strike just hours ago in Chernihiv. This was on 3/3. Why is everyone in the West pretending they're not seeing these horrors, says the tweeter, Ina Sobson. Well, because, Ina, it looks like a hoax. You're telling me 33 people were killed on 3/3? Okay. Now, this is low, even for Fed. Even for Flat Earth Dave, this is low. If you don't like something, what should you do? Burn it? Ban it? Or let it go and let other people think for themselves? So for years, flat earthers have been complaining about being censored. Well, here you have David Weiss, Fed, Flat Earth Dave, giving a 1-star review on a book he didn't read. He gave a 1-star review to Kelly Well's new book, Off the Edge. Now, I don't agree with her. I think she's wrong about a lot of things, but her book's actually really good. But David doesn't want you to read it because it'll cut into his app sales. By the way, he stole the app. He was a beta tester for a Flat Earth app, and he stole the app, repackaged it, and he's made over $100,000 off of it. But David Weiss wrote a review with 1 star, which I believe after this, David Weiss's little minion, Brian Stavely, goes live and sends his viewers to her Amazon page and said, basically, give her a bad rating. Here's what David wrote. This book does nothing but gaslight the reality of our world. Earth is testable and provably flat. Well, again, the rating system isn't about whether or not you agree with the person. It's really about quality. But he's doing this because his thinking is, don't look at this. Don't look behind this curtain. It's like, wait a second here. You're just as bad as the Globe gatekeepers. Like, no, don't leave their mind prison. Come into mind prison. It's like, let people think for themselves. Anyway, I messaged her about it, and she let Amazon know. So I snitched on Fed. She said, oh, that's okay. Amazon's blocking reviews on the book. They started actually blocking the reviews right after that. Okay, hey, let's hope the Simpsons were right about this one. This is from an episode of The Simpsons on a date, April the 12th, 2022. Looks like a nuke. So mark your calendar for 4/12. Charlie says, what does docs mean? Oh, docs means to build a dossier, to have your personal information leaked, get all of their documents, and then put them on the internet. Like when I say I doxed Q, it means that I used the DMCA subpoena to find out that the guy that pretends to be Q, the guy behind this JFK Jr. thing, the guy behind George News, the guy who shines Trump's shoes, yeah, I doxed him. His name is Marcus Goldfinch. Research Marcus Goldfinch. And there's big money in it. If you can be the one to bring this, I mean, it's a big story. It's a big lead. You could be the one that exposes Q to the world. You just gotta find someone who will listen. Let them know that he's admitted to, and there's receipts for it all published online. He's admitted to many, many felonies. Going through some comments. Zara says April Fool's Day is another one of their favorite launch days. Well, we're coming up also on the 2nd anniversary, or hoax-iversary of COVID. This Friday, 3/11. 3/11, a big object's about to hit the Earth, they say, but 3/11 is also the 2nd anniversary of this event. How short is this Ukrainian president? I mean, here he is shaking hands with Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is looking down on him. Kyiv residents say their relatives in Russia don't believe they're being bombarded. And this is funny. Non-belief is a problem. Imagine that. Non-belief in the war is a problem. Quote, they're just brainwashing people. Residents say family in Russia don't believe their city's under attack. She says her mom believes state-run media is telling the truth over her own daughter. See, isn't that interesting? Imagine if we had that level of skepticism. Hey, there's no bodies. No COVID. No Kung flu. Nobody's falling on their face like they were in Wuhan. No evidence. No chain of causality between that bowl of bat soup and your wife's headache. I mean, everybody has hypochondria. Like, it's COVID. There was no skepticism there, and it would have stopped it. And I'm seeing skepticism like crazy with this thing in Ukraine. So here's a little bit of trivia, but this is probably going to come into play later. Robert Kardashian was an American attorney and businessman who shot to fame as he stood by O.J. Simpson during the trial. He's known for being the ex-husband of Kris Jenner and the dad of Kim, Kourtney, Khloe, and Rob. So yes, the Kardashians are really connected to that event. And here's some Metascript for you. Joker Sarneff from the Boston bombing gets his death penalty reinstated the day Batman comes out. 3-4. What are the odds? What are the odds? Batman and Joker. They play this Batman-Joker dialectic all the time with the psyops. Here's another Tom Clancy novel that has predicted the future. A 1986 Tom Clancy novel envisioned Russia provoking World War III. And we'll talk about this one tonight and how it ended. Russia releases a video of the space station breaking apart. Again, if you read my book, The Metascript Decoded, and I'll put a link in the chat, themetascript.com, you would have known this story a year ago. You would have known about this. It says, we're not exactly sure where they're headed. This is again from Futurism. We're not exactly sure what Russia's space agency is threatening the U.S. with, but they seem to be alluding to something. And here's that video from earlier, where you can see the Russian segment detaching from the ISS. And yes, I called it here in a book. I published it when I did. I wanted to wait. I had more to add, and I would have spent more time editing and other things, adding more pictures, but I wanted to get this out so I could show that I'm actually predicting things based off predictive programming. JT33 suggesting that Tom Cruise was standing on a box in that picture. You know who else does that? Matt Pizzagates. You got to look at Matt Pizzagates. He's like 7'5" in all of his pictures, but he's 5'7" in reality. Okay, we'll be back later, open phones and all that. There's a whole lot going on today. So the Discord server is back on, from what I can tell. So I'll be back, open phones, later today. I'm going to leave the 24/7 on. This is Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms. I'll do a replay, so if you just showed up late, catch the replay. Get on the newsletter. This is Auto Hoax.
I'm on Auto Hoax, and it feels so good. You just auto believe everything like I knew that you would. In my dream, you know I ain't got time, baby, for another crisis actor with soulless eyes.
ISS, ISS on fire. Yeah, ISS on the song, that's your on fire. Yeah, ISS on the song, that's your on fire. Yeah, ISS, ISS on fire. Yeah, 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 ISS on fire.
Okay, it's 2/23, 2022. It's still Mirror Week. Bunch of palindrome activity going on. Nothing to be alarmed by. Just a Cup says, still waiting to get into the Discord. Sure, just join the Patreon and click the link, or join the site at infiniteplane.radio. I highly recommend it. The think tank is really ground zero for this meme epidemic. The meme on the screen, it's got Elmo looking at a nuke blowing up the firmament. It says, me, waiting for Armageddon, 2 minutes until 2:22 local time on 2/2/2222. I have a lot of 2 fatigue at the moment, and I'm really thinking now that this whole week is going to be pretty much spectacular, starting with yesterday. Yesterday, I think they released the Kraken. If you didn't watch the Donda event, you missed out. We're talking about the event with Kanye West, loaded with symbolism. I mean, yesterday was definitely one of these days, I think, that really measured up to what I would have expected. Even though it wasn't like completely spectacular 9/11-y, there were many, many strange coincidences yesterday that are impossible to ignore. One of them that really stood out the most was the event with Elton John Rocket Man having an emergency landing, which we'll get into that as well. Let me also be addressing your comments, but let's see here. So basically it was this. Yesterday was the twos, but the reason why we really were talking about this in the first place is the month started with a big psyop on the 2nd with a guy named Amir. And so you're like, well, Amir, it seems like there's something to the word phonetically. But then you also have the timestamp of his death, specifically being 648, a mirror of 846, the major George Floyd number. And again, we're talking about another Twin Cities event. Portal Complex says, just hopped off the subway from Crater Earth. Yep, we were just over there hanging out at Crater Earth. And by the way, I already had a talk earlier this morning with Micah Dank. We did a podcast that will be premiering later, and that, of course, is Micah Dank, the author, astrotheologist, a decoder of holy books, so-called holy books. Evolvement says, one of my favorite, show me a live stream of the Earth whirling with the buildings upside down. Yes, Chief Crow wears the curve. And so one of the things that we talked about yesterday was Pluto, the significance of Pluto in the bigger context. And right now we're dealing with, well, we're witnessing the free crack pipe distribution agenda. And I'm saying they released the Kraken. It's all symbolic. Release the Kraken. And the Kraken is the coming civil war, the split, the final move in this takeover of the globe by this monolithic cult. They have to destroy the remaining challengers. And I think that's where we're at right now. So we're watching this Kraken narrative unfold, and it ties into the election, it ties into so much else. And then, of all things, turns out that Pluto's return, which again corresponds to July 4th of 1776, Pluto's return has a tie-in to the Kraken agenda. As in, Pluto is Hades, and Hades created the Kraken. Predator News Now says, I sent you an email regarding my online account for the Discord invite. Awesome. Yeah, send me the emails, and basically, though, if you're on Patreon or if you go to infiniteplane.radio and you join, there's a link that says Discord, and it gets you right into the think tank. So here was the newsletter from yesterday, and I'll see if we've missed anything here. I'm expecting Hades to return on Tuesday, the 22nd, and again, this is because of Pluto's return to the point of where it was in July of 1776. But the word Kraken has been injected steadily into the mass consciousness since the lead up, really starting, I would say, in July of 2020. So since this lead up to the 2020 U.S. presidential election, we've been seeing the word Kraken and crack both being injected into the mass media. You had crack addict Michael Lindell attempting to overturn the election. You had Hunter Biden's crack pipe usage. You had the Kraken in the form of Sidney Powell, again working on the election agenda. And now, again, we have the nonstop references, and it's not over yet. And then Joe Biden's new communism. Used to be a chicken in every pot, now it's a crack pipe in every pot. So, as we've been saying, though, this word crack, in my opinion, is about a rift. It's about a split in this country, a cultural and political fault line that will break upon the release of the Kraken, whatever that happens to be. So what is the Kraken? And that's what we've been discussing on this channel. And then, is it, there are so many possibilities. Is it going to be a tsunami, some kind of nuke on the West Coast? They're going to take out the space station. All these different scenarios have come into play. And let's just take a quick look here at the drudgereport.com. One of the top sources for being totally misinformed about reality. And you'll see yesterday, the imagery even looked like July 4th, fireworks, etc. But massive cyber attack, new superpower struggle. There are suggestions that our satellites will be taken down. So they have really turned on the World War III thing. And look, yesterday we talked about this. Logos, signs, symbolism, and we were talking about the prophetic nature of Westworld. And this all ties in to yesterday and Donda 2, Kanye's record release party. Because there's a Westworld tie-in. Not just the name Kanye West, Westworld, but the central feature of Westworld, the house, like the burning house on the stage yesterday. And then you also had the appearance of, and the presence of Marilyn Manson there. And his tie-in also would introduce Westworld in that he was the antagonist to the main character in Westworld. In real life, rather. It's interesting what they've done here. So if you're not familiar with this, let me bring this up really quick. So Evan Wood is I believe she's 33 now, Evan Rachel Wood. And she's the one who, and just yesterday, she was detailing the abuse by Marilyn Manson. Phoenix Rising trailer. Evan Rachel Wood rises from the ashes. talking about her abuse by Marilyn Manson. So here you have a 33-year-old. Think about this, the consistency here, the symbolism. And this just came out yesterday. 33-year-old Phoenix Rising. The Phoenix 33 connection I could go into endlessly. My point being, I think this is a psyop. And I think the purpose of this psyop, we'll be explaining here, is the reintroduction of this Manson archetype, Charles Manson, the madman, the cult leader. And of course, this also ties in with our bigger picture analysis that shows the superimposition of 1968 and 69 over 2020 and 2021, specifically with the use of this Manson character, killings that occurred on the anniversary of the Manson dates. You even have some interesting correlations between the Tate Lee Bianca killings and one of the individuals suing him, her name being Bianco. You get Alpha and Omega. And, one of the things that we talked about with Micah Dank this morning that actually relates to this is he brought up Aquarius. And one of the ways of describing Aquarius, this new age, is man-son. Man-son. And so this all ties in to this record release party yesterday, Donda 2, and the symbolism of the stage. And it's all telling the story about the burning of Westworld, the West, Western chauvinism. Again, Evan Rachel, her role in the movie was she was the mind-controlled, abused subject. And the antagonist was this man with the black hat, black clothes, really dark Saturnian disposition. And she's the victim who eventually realizes that she's under control and that this guy is basically the devil. Well, when Evan Rachel saw Marilyn Manson at the last Kanye event where he set himself on fire, a phoenix, a burning man, more consistent symbolism, she suddenly had flashbacks about Marilyn Manson's abuse. Well, in the movie Westworld, in the series, it's the same thing. She eventually realizes, she pieces it together, that the man in black is actually the antagonist, who is someone she has to overcome. So these are parallel stories. Now let's go ahead and continue. One other thing about the Westworld logo worth looking at is this is from 3/15/2020. We're looking at season 3, where you have an individual kneeling and they're in front of a building. You can see the building going right through their chest, the way it's superimposed. And I think this is about the impalement, the vaccination, the 311 agenda, that the pandemic and what followed. It says free will is not free. So it's about the loss of freedom and submission. That's what kneeling means. And this is all very significant too, because remember, 33, Phoenix. Twin Towers go up 1968. 33 years later, they burn them down. Creation, destruction. 13 years later, it's your Phoenix number, 13, resurrection number. They raise them back up. They build it back up into a single tower. And so the Twin Towers, burning after 33, being replaced after 13, open up on 113, November the 3rd. So this has a great deal of significance in a couple of things I could point at. One would be Apollo 11 blowing up at 113 p.m. And the other would be the Challenger exploding at 1 minute and 13 seconds. 113. It's the number of the Challenger being destroyed, the resurrection, the Twin Towers going down, opening back up. So again, what I'm suggesting here is that the Twin Towers going down symbolically, I believe, represents mankind brought to his knees, the kneeling. That's what it symbolizes. The Twin Towers could be correlated to the twin pillars of the Masonic Lodge, with the pillars representing the thigh bones. So the tower is being taken out. It's you kneeling. They're taking your knees. So here he is kneeling to the new tower. The new tower, the one in New York rather, is 1,776 feet high. Significance there, a couple of things. 888 in Christian gematria, which, again, you know my thoughts on gematria. Don't care for it. However, it's a language. There's a pattern here you can discern. So you multiply 888 times 2, you get 1776. Second coming encoded into this new tower. This new age, second coming, Now, the kneeling to the single tower, if you ask me, is about submission to the one world system. That's what it represents, and that's why the towers tend to look like big vax needles. Now, one more thing, well, two more things. When you look closer at the logo, here's another 9/11 3/11 tie-in. It says Westworld, and it has 3 bars. Now, the 3 bars are for season 1, 2, 3. However, it almost looks like, well, it looks like you're staring out a window at the Twin Towers. So that's a 9/11 connection to season 3. And then the other version of the logo has a W with a pillar on each side. So it's 2 W's, West World. But if you look at it sideways, you also get your 311 out of it. Heavily encoded, Twin Tower 311 connections. Okay, I'm going through your comments. Ashley, Miss Kitty said, had an emergency alert but was very quiet and low. Anyone else see it on TV 20 minutes ago? Have not yet. Maxwell Cooper says the Twin Towers coordinates were at 40 degrees, 42, 42. Okay, now this is interesting too. This goes really, let's get into today and what has recently happened. So, 222 is a significant date for a few reasons to us here. Happens to be the date of Mad Mike's crash, his final rocket launch. I don't know if you'd call it a crash. It's a daredevil stunt. But my point being, it was on 222, and he had this movie out on Amazon called Rocket Man. And it seemed very interesting to me that you have a movie called Rocket Man out, and all of a sudden, Elton John has a movie coming out called Rocket Man. And we were noting how it seems like the timing of the movie might have been intentional, perhaps to bury our Rocket Man, our friend. Bury him in the headlines, cover up his movie, because what they're doing is we're talking about Mad Mike Hughes and his mission to prove the Earth flat. And if you haven't seen that documentary, we should probably look at this first, and then you're going to see the Elton John tie-in to this whole thing, and it connects to 9/11 and the falling man. This gets really intricate, but you'll see. Let me go ahead and play this first, just to get everything into context. So on 2/22/2020, Mad Mike had his final rocket launch and crash, but prior to that, he had a successful launch, set a few records here and there, world records. No big deal. Some guy with a $15 an hour salary hand makes his own rocket and sends himself up, unlike the simulated astronauts. Anyway, I'm going to play the trailer, Rocket Man, and I'll be right back. It's about 2 minutes.
These things are not easy to do.
A California man is getting ready to launch himself into the air in a homemade rocket to prove that the Earth is flat.
My favorite, barbecued moron.
A lot of people got the idea that he's just some kind of a nut.
He might just be crazy.
I believe in the geocentric flat Earth model.
Joe Rogan called him crazy, so that tells you something there.
This is America. We can believe whatever we want.
People have lost faith in experts. Scientific facts are completely debatable.
The Earth isn't flat.
I'm not going to take anyone else's word for it. I'm going to build my own rocket right here, and I'm going to see with my own eyes what shape this world we live on.
Look, any idiot can sit in their bedroom uploading conspiracy theories to YouTube, but it takes a special idiot to launch himself into space for the cause.
What do I do if shit goes south? Did you leave a letter or something? What do you want me to do?
Now here you have it breaking down the headlines, BBC News, CBS News, Fox, Comedy Central, Forbes. So my point is, this was grabbing headlines. It was a trending story, 17 national newspapers trending on Facebook for something like 3 days straight. So I'm going to go and put a link in the chat. You can watch the rest of the trailer. I highly recommend going to Amazon. But you can see it here, realrocketman.com, Rocket Man. Now this movie, this documentary, it did very well. It's doing very well. He went on to do a reality TV show, Homemade Astronauts, and it was during the filming of Homemade Astronauts where the last launch took place on 2/22/2020, so 2 years ago. So now, while this movie was being produced, or right after it came out, suddenly you had Elton John's corny movie called Rocket Man. So if you search for Rocket Man, you were getting Mad Mike, but then they started to drown it out, and we thought, well, this could be a coincidence. So here you have this cheesy Rocket Man movie, and I thought this has got to be an SEO grab to steal traffic that was steering towards this research flat Earth and this growing movement of people who are actually getting behind taking some kind of action to resolve this flat Earth question. Now here's where it gets interesting. Elton John yesterday says Elton John nearly ended up becoming a rocket man. The famed singer suffered a terrifying ordeal when the private jet he was flying, again this is yesterday on 222, so on the anniversary of Rocket Man's final launch, this other Rocket Man has this ordeal, and it gets all kinds of coverage, and they describe it in ways that make it sound like it was a crash. It says, John was flying from UK to New York. He had to perform, well, it says here, he was on a private jet, and they suffered a hydraulic failure at 10,000 feet. The jet was buffeted and couldn't land. It was horrible to see, a witness told them. The plane was being buffeted and couldn't make it, Thompson said. The aircraft's nose was too vertical. The plane was descending and was halfway along the runway when he gave up trying to hit the tarmac, and it soared back up in the air. So it nearly crashed and it went back up. A crowd gathered after word went round that Elton John was having difficulty. So it sounds to me kind of hoaxy that people would be screaming, hey, Elton John's going to crash, and they all just run out to see. Like, no way. Now it says this was the third attempt to land when the plane finally got down. The pilot made a flatter approach and the wind dropped. Everyone is slightly relieved. So here we have it. Elton John has a near crash landing and nearly becomes a, quote, rocket man on 222222. A couple more things on this because it gets even weirder. It really gets stranger here. So it turns out we've been talking about the 9/11 and the synchronicities, the coding, the numbers, specifically like 42. So here's an example. The falling man photograph. This is a very interesting little thing. This is all documentable. This is, quote, history. So on 9/11, you have the falling man photo. And you've probably all seen it. The falling man is the person who looks like the Hanged Man Tarot card. He's falling from the Twin Tower. I'll put it on the screen here. Shot by AP photographer Richard Drew. So this picture is weird in its own way. It's a very perfect shot. Now what makes it stranger is that the photographer is also the guy who photographed RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, as he was dying. So you see a few consistencies here. Here that brings in a Kennedy tie-in to this 9/11 thing. And we always see the number 42 associated with falling. And someone mentioned the coordinates of the Twin Towers. I have to check on that because it's very consistent. This use of the number 42 having to do with falling. It's associated with Saturn and a few other things, but it's super consistent. So, for example, he was shot dead with the 22. You had Isaac Cappy, initials IK 9/11. He fell exactly 22 feet and died, age of 22. Now, these are consistent things. Now, the Elton John event, the plane emergency crash landing happened at 11:19 a.m. So 11:19 or 9/11 reversed. Ambulance and crew, here we go. Ambulance crews and the police were alerted at 11:19. Firefighters from 6 stations raced to the scene and the runway was cleared. So it was a drama that they created. Again, what is the point to this? Well, they talk about Rocket Man, emergency, horrific near accident. It seems like perhaps they're trying to, I don't know, steer traffic. But now here's the thing. The photograph that I brought up of the 9/11 jumper is actually owned by none other than Elton John. So it says here, Elton John is describing the photograph. It's been denounced as cold-blooded, ghoulish, and sadistic. It says, Elton John called it one of the most perfect photographs ever taken. So he actually has the piece. Here's a photo of Elton John showing off his collection of pictures. And it says here, he'll collect controversial work, unsettling images like the photograph of the falling man taken on 9/11 by Richard Drew. Elton John said of the photo, "It's the most beautiful image of something so tragic. It's one of the most perfect photographs ever taken." So there you have it. He actually owns the photo, and there's more. In his home in Atlanta, Elton John has a collection where he's got photos from the Manson killings. He's got a lot of interesting photos, which I'll go into all these things, these Elton John connections, but I wanted to focus on this one. He owns that 9/11 jumper photo. A couple other things. In the last few days, we had a couple of crashes. You had the beach copter crash, and then you had a police officer killed in Huntington Beach in a copter crash. Well, that was mirrored yesterday, another 2 crashes, but yesterday this is just too many helicopters. Just pointing this out. You had the 2 crashes last week. You had the other one yesterday, some National Guard thing out in the Pacific. Well, then you had another 2 crashes. So yesterday in a place called Fork Canyon. Now think about the symbolism here. Yesterday is all about the 2s, the mirror, palindrome week. So you got a split, a mirror, a crack. We're talking about this repeated theme here. Well, here you have 2 or twins, again another splitting, like the Twin Cities killing of a mirror. You have 2 National Guard Black Hawk helicopters crash yesterday. And they crashed in Fork Canyon. So Fork gives you another split. Says the Black Hawks were with the 2nd General Support of the 211th Aviation Regiment. So 211, maybe a 22, 2nd General Support. A lot of 2s, and I have a lot of 2 fatigue. But again, these crashes happen in a place called Fork Canyon. Fork Canyon, 2 Black Hawks going down. So these are twins. And again, 2 Black Hawks. A few significant things about that I think we could extrapolate. But the main thing I want to point out here, twins. And falling. They were falling. Another repeated theme for yesterday. And this, I think, would also tie into this. On January 30th, we had the Miss USA, a black beauty queen, falling from the Orion building onto 42nd Street. There's that number again. She falls from the Orion building, a beauty queen, dying on 42 or 42nd. Now 42nd Street happens to be the street. This is interesting for a few reasons to me. It's the street where you had the Manhattan blackouts, the significant historical blackouts of 2019 and 1977, exactly 42 years apart to the day. The date was 7/13. So on July 13th or 7/13, 1977, Manhattan blackout. There's a movie about it called Summer of Sam. It's when the son of Sam was running around shooting people. And that movie was directed by Spike Lee, which if we mind map this, it'll blow your mind how Spike Lee's role seems to pop up in a lot of these psyops. Like he's definitely, I would say, Kubrick level metascriptor. But anyway, we have this beauty queen dying on 42nd Street. She hits the ground at 7:13 a.m. according to TMZ. The significance there, the blackouts happen 42nd Street, 7:13. She hits the ground at 7:13 on that very same street. And then I watched a movie last week I've been talking about called 222. And this movie is about synchronicity. It's about astrology and about predestination and cycles. But anyway, the movie has everything to do with the train station on 42nd Street. Anyway, we'll go deeper into this, but this is the thing. The building she jumped out of, the Orion building, is actually, Orion is synonymous with Osiris. Another interesting correlation there, because we're talking about this ritualistic killing of a sun king. And then one other part of it that I think is noteworthy here, the Orion connection, of course, Sun King falling, her initials, CK, which of course 311 gives you 33, but specifically her name is Chesley Christ. Kryst. It's like, whoa, there's a bit of stuff here layered. Then, of course, the queen and the royalty thing. Now, this is paralleled. There's another story here. Another beauty queen falling from another tower. So you have 2 towers, 2 beauty queens. Pageant pain inside the tragic beauty queen deaths of Zoe Sozo Bethel. These names ought to be decoded. You can get quite, there's quite a lot. We were looking at the symbolism in Betty White and the name Beth, and as it ties into the Bethlehem star, there may be something here. But anyway, dies weeks after Miss USA, Chesley Christ, jumps to her death. Now, a few things here. The falling is key. And also, it's about USA. Falling. USA, Babylon, falling. And then think about the number 33 and Phoenix that I've been mentioning. So you have the Burning Man in front of the White House in 2019, and he happened to be exactly 33 years old. But the thing about that ritual, because it was not a real event, this is ritual, is the guy was wearing a USA shirt. Again, this was 33 years after another guy did the same thing in the same place. This guy is 33, and he's wearing a USA shirt, so it's USA burning. So when I see this USA, Miss USA falling, again, it's all code. And of course the name Christ, TK33, super encoded. But now we have twins. We have two different towers. They also specify head injury. Let me go through some comments and then we will continue. Portal Complex says, sick of Glitter Boy and his fairy glasses. We all know the real Rocket Man. Yeah, I think they were trying to direct traffic away. That's what I think. Says Restless Bear says, weird. Klaus Huxley, very weird. Evolving Grace, that is weird. Yeah, absolutely, isn't it? The timing of it's bizarre. Marcel says, I don't believe in coincidence. Marve says, they have to kill celebrities like Lady Di to get more money and resources. Yeah, I happen to think, though, Lady Di, Diana, Princess Diana, moon goddess name, hitting the 13th pillar. Yurt Mama says, Elton's a baby eater. Evolving Grace says, it was the chopper crash with Kobe kicking off the fake crap in 2020 rut row. True. And the chopper crash was predicted in several, like a cartoon, a commercial. There were several instances, but also it happened the week of the Challenger explosion. And the Challenger explosion happens at 1 minute 13 seconds. Correlates to the Apollo 11, 113. 113 is the Phoenix number. You'll even see November the 3rd, they released the iPhone 10 on that day for that reason. iPhone 10. iPhoenix. Again, they opened that new tower on 113. Alright, going through some comments. Charles Wilhite says, I'm not surprised 2222 was a dud. They're running scared. Well, I don't think it was a dud. I think all the things we were expecting were being communicated, and as you'll see. JT33 says, real Rocket Man damage control. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? We're looking at Elton John being used for IPS damage control. Can this even be real? Well, if you think about the can of worms that we've opened and that we continue to pry at, if you consider the media coverage and the dissemination of dangerous memes, you can understand why, if this is an InfoWar, they would engage in these topics. Echo Charlie says, regarding Breonna March, George Floyd in May, 2 beauty queens. Now, Breonna Taylor is another one of these martyrs tied into this bigger agenda, and she's been brought up as of late because of Amir Locke. Same agenda, getting rid of no-knock warrants. And again, the names, Amir, it's Amir month, this is a palindrome week, it's a mirror of the George Floyd event, same attorney, same Twin Cities, another mirror reference. I mean, it's way too many coincidences here to just set that to the side. And I think his father said, my 22-year-old son, Amir, was killed on 2/2/2/2 and have 22 days of peace. So I assume that ends tomorrow. The piece ends tomorrow, just a heads up. But again, the name Amir, significant. But his last name, Locke. So the video starts off at 6:48. Again, a mirror of 8:46. Super encoded events. I mean, you can't really overstate this. This is important because we're far beyond connecting dots and cherry picking or conjecture. This is beyond conspiracy theory. These are observations. The sun set on 5/25/2020 at 8:46, corresponding to the time that they knelt on George Floyd, corresponding to the time that 9/11 starts, 8:46. So for the Amir lock to start at 6:48, and they put the key in the lock at 6:48. And then they turn the key in the lock. Then they go shoot Amir lock. I mean, yes, twin Blackhawks crashing in Utah in Fork Canyon. I mean, think about that too. Fork. And yesterday was Pluto return. Oh, Pluto is Hades, released the Kraken. Well, look at the image of Pluto, and you got to see what he's carrying. Or Pluto or Hades. He's carrying a bident, not a trident with three prongs, but a bident. And here he is with his dogs. It makes me think of Joe Biden, kicking his dog or chasing his dog while he's naked out of the shower, trying to pull its tail. You know, all these Joe Biden dog stories. Okay, here's another one. Joe Biden recently left or talked about how he left a dead dog on some lady's door. Well, the significance here is that these underworld deities are, they have these psychopomps. They have the doorway. They have the deity that guides you to the underworld or guards it. So you have the three-headed guardian dog guarding Hades. You've got the dog-headed god that guides you into the underworld. So anyway, this is the guy who created the Kraken, also very significant. Release the crack pipes. Release the Kraken. And here you have a bident. And think about the role of Joe Biden in this present circumstance where we're looking at the schism and the crack and this split in our world. So it makes sense that you would have a bident kind of encoded into the name. I don't believe these are coincidental. I mean, we've talked about the names of these various characters. I mean, Obama and Biden, Osama bin Laden. These are jokes. These are jokes. And if you're not laughing, you're being laughed at. I mean, I would rather laugh with them and at them. I don't like not being in the know about this stuff. Rocco points out there was a crash in the Pacific on 222. Yeah, there were 4 recent helicopters just crashing everywhere. And correct, Maxwell, Kobe was buried in Corona del Mar. But twin Black Hawks. Obrecht says, why a subtext to everything? Here's why. Because the elite that rule this place prefer to rule over people who are illiterate. That's why they were mad about movable type press. That's why they had a counter-reformation. And so even though you can read now, you've been rendered symbol illiterate. So you've been rendered visually illiterate when it comes to special effects. So what they've done is by having this two-tiered interpretation, I think they've helped to maintain their power balance by keeping you in a state of ignorance. And the state of the subtext here, the storyline, I think this might be part of the astrotheological cult that runs the world. The religions all have a subtext. And the new religion is the one that comes out of your TV. I'm suggesting that the TV, I posit that the televised worldview, the MSM, is the new Bible. And that it is equally astrologically encoded. But that they use modern myths like the celebrity deaths, movies, films, actors playing archetypal roles. So what I think they've done is they've replaced the old religion with the new. It's very obvious with the space program when you look at the rocket obelisks. It's very obvious when you look at the new medical tyranny as just the reintroduction of a puritanical vision of reality. And new communion, a new form of baptism has been introduced, new religious garments. So the subtext, I think, is there to hide the rulers of this place in plain sight. And I think it's also perhaps a matter of communicating to one another above our heads. I don't even think it's that complicated so much as it's esoteric versus exoteric. Missing says it's too cold to riot in the Twin Cities. Yeah, the temperature is always going to be a problem. Now, March 4th is the date that the piece of space junk is going to hit the moon. And this is also significant, thinking about this Moonfall movie. So why all the Moonfall? Why the focus on stuff falling from the sky? Well, if you remember, right after COVID was declared a pandemic, as in on 3/11 we had the pandemic, then you had the emergency on 3/13, Friday the 13th, another Phoenix number. But on 3/16, 2020, you had what they called a Black Monday. It was the worst market crash in 33 years. Black Monday is given to stock market crashes that occurred on 4 different Mondays. So you go back, but the 87 one and the 2021, spaced 33 years apart, were connected with this one, specifically because the market crashes, it drops about 2,997 points on the Dow Jones. This is almost, well, it's a 9/11 number, if you think about it. 3,000 dead, 3,000 going down. Dow plunged. Again, it falls down. Dow plunged 3,000 points. And this was on March 16th when U.S. had reported 66 deaths. 3,000 points. Again, a 9/11 number. Now, my point being here is that this was on what they called a Black Monday, this market crash. And there was a TV show out called Black Monday. The TV show, Black Monday, had just started season 2 on that day. Season 1 was about the 87 market crash. So, interestingly enough, one of the actresses commented on this and said it was eerie that their new season debuts when an actual Black Monday market crash occurs. I haven't watched the show, but now here's where it ties into Moonfall. Sunday, Sun, Monday, Moon. Tuesday, Mars, Wednesday, Mercury, and so on. So, Monday market crash, Moonfall may pertain, I think, to another market crash. And I'm saying this because last year, it was all about to the moon, Dogecoin to the moon. There was all this hype with the cryptocurrency. Elon Musk started that. Then you had the billionaires racing to space, and the moon was the big meme last year that they were pushing. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to hit the moon with this crypto or that. We're going to put an actual literal Dogecoin on the moon. Well, Musk actually announced this to the moon agenda during the Wolf Moon. And he had his 2 starships up. Wolf Moon. I mean, the timing of these things is what really spells it all out. Because the wolf, the dog, to the moon. They're telling us a story here. So the to the moon is going to be followed by, I think, the Moonfall. That's my point. So I think Moonfall, Black Moon Day, market crash. It has been conveyed. So I'm predicting more or less probably a crypto crash. Echo Charlie says IPS damage control in the script. In 1,000 years, there will only be one Rocket Man that had trouble on 222. Yeah, they rewrite history as we go along. Charles Wilhite says Kanye West is an anagram for nasty week. Correct. All right, let's see. Echo Charlie says, I'm good at the Christian subtext and layerings, Chinese mythology, no clue. Well, it is Year of the Tiger, if that tells you anything. There may be something to it. The 33's encoded in there with the Bengals thing returning to the Super Bowl, but as far as predicting, I don't know. I don't even know if that's what we're looking to do here so much as knowing what's really going on, though. It's not about predicting it so much as not being bamboozled with the masses. Like, we're not going to be the ones lining up to submit to the alien overlords. Evolving Grace says, this is what confuses me. They use symbols to communicate with each other, but why not use traditional methods? I don't mean to sound stupid, but what the... Well, do you know how gangs work? Gangs and gang signs. Secret societies. And also, when you talk about secret societies, these aren't hypotheticals. These aren't things out of just movies or conspiracy theories. You're just talking about hierarchies within organizations that are layered according to a need-to-know basis. But we're talking about security clearances. A secret society is a society with security clearances. But again, the confusion or the like, why would they communicate things obviously and openly and outwardly? That's the part that doesn't make sense. If you're going to do this operation, why would you telegraph it? That's what you're kind of asking. And I think that's where it ties into this place where media and magic intersect. And if you don't believe in magic, I understand, but the theory and practice of magic, you can study it, you can see how it's in operation. So to me, it's just a matter of what are they doing? What do they think they're doing? How does this work? But my point being, magic isn't simply card tricks or sleight of hand, but it's something more akin to, I would say, synchronizing human minds, turning them into matrix batteries, and somehow using the co-creative power of human beings to influence or manifest some projected future. I kind of think that's what we're looking at, like man playing God, in a sense. I don't know if it's like literally like evil versus good, or if it's just more mundane than that. But yeah, it's kind of hard for me to separate magic from all of this when it's all completely encoded with all of this occult symbology, and specifically the timing of these events. And it does imply, like I've said before, the cult that runs this world venerates, worships, or another, or maybe they, whatever it is, the word worship's appropriate. Maybe that's the one to use. But they tend to worship this ancient religion with the new guys. Marvey says the helicopter crash in Miami looked very fake. Yeah, that's the one where nobody was like watching. Like they're all just on the beach and then the helicopter crashes. Nobody even turns around. Klaus Huxley says they are magicians. Yeah, and if you're not willing to entertain that notion, it's because they told you. They said don't look behind the curtain. So if you're not willing to look into magic, you're actually outside the temple. You're hoodwinked. You're in the darkness. And they give this stuff away in their initiations, whatever cult you talk about when it comes to these secret societies. It's always about the insiders, the ones inside the temple who've seen the light. And they are groups separate from those outside the temple who exist in the darkness. So we have an Illuminati among us. We have a group of people who have seen the light. And this could also explain something about the why they would be so brazen about their symbols and out in the open, flashing their hand signs. It's possibly arrogance. Maybe they know they have everything on lockdown, and that only a small percentage of the population can even see that there is a cult that runs this place. And so they're just more or less arrogant, like Duper's Delight. How many times have you seen crisis actors laughing on TV when they should be crying or avoiding cameras, avoiding retaliation? It's like, yeah, I just watched this guy kill a bunch of people. We don't know where he's at now, but it was horrifying. And it's like, well, now he knows who you are. You're on TV. Klaus Huxley says, right, the plebes remain illiterate. That's a big part of it. Because another part of it, too, I think, in terms of power and control, is they've established a priesthood. They've established a priesthood or a de facto priesthood who have information or access to information that we don't. They have a divine mandate to rule, more or less. Now, March 4th, the moon's going to get hit. Again, March 4th could be a significant date. Originally, they said it was from SpaceX, that they had some piece of junk that was going to hit the moon, but now they said it's from China. Now, China is denying it. So if China's denying it, and SpaceX is denying it, then what is it? Is it a alien spacecraft? All right, let's see. Klaus says, signs and symbols rule the world, not words or laws. Van Gogh says, Bitcoin has always been associated with the moon. Even in the charts, you can see the price somewhat follows the moon cycles. Google Bitcoin full moon correlation. Okay. It says if you backtest Bitcoin's 2021 correlation to the moon cycle, you find an 80% success rate. Does full moon affect crypto? Well, I think the market crash is being hinted at with the moonfall, because it goes deeper when you go into what moonfall was about. Moonfall and Don't Look Up, these movies are synonymous, and they might as well just be contiguous. They use the same archetypes and characters. Moonfall and Don't Look Up both have the new Noah, the Noah of our age that the sinners don't listen to. It's the disheveled scientist with the glasses, kind of a neck beard, he hasn't shaved, and he's basically working to save us, and nobody's listening. He's saying, you got to cut off your wickedness. No more dino juice. No more fossil fuels. The world can't take it. And of course, the sinners, aka the corporations, the capitalists, the consumers, they keep on consuming. They keep guzzling the gas, and so the world's going to end. Like, this is the story they've given us. The guy in Moonfall was 33, by the way, and he saves the world. But the point is, it's the money system. It's this desire for money that destroys the world. The earth is the Titanic. Global warming is the iceberg. And Don't Look Up, you got Mr. Titanic himself, Leonardo DiCaprio, pointing out the comet, which is like a space iceberg. And it's going to hit the earth if we don't listen to the scientists. So they listen to the guys with the money. They try to exploit the comet and mine it, and they all die. So there you have it. Capitalism is going to crash our system. There's a correlation between the money system and the environment. And that's what they've been trying to suggest. I can't breathe is something that they've taken to mean the atmosphere can't breathe. This system is oppressing the earth itself, not just the police oppression, but the environment itself. So the financial system is going to destroy the world if they don't do something. That's the market crash that's coming. Evolving Grace says, I believe in magic, it's real. From what I can tell, from what I've read, there's a important connection between the word magic and imagination and even magnetism. And it has to do with the law of attraction and the use of the imagination in manifesting. Now, whether or not you accept that as a premise that you are a co-creator or you're somehow cybernetically connected to the system, it's not even a matter of theory, it's an observation. If you've ever had a synchronicity that you can't rule out, that you can rule out as just being a coincidence, a synchronicity that you can't just say merely a coincidence. And we point these things out all the time. We point out coincidences and things that require some high level of sophisticated planning. But my point is, it's one thing to see sophisticated planning and subtext and these nuanced storylines embedded into movies, which man films. But it's another when you have synchronicities in your own life, in your own experiences. Aside from precognition, premonition, telepathy, there are things that to me tell us that, yeah, we are in some level. It might just be 1%, but we're not just NPCs, is my point. And if you're not an NPC, if you're somehow connected to this thing and you're not aware of it, but the people who run this place are using the technology that they call magic, and they're using you in group magical rituals with your television altar, then yeah, I think we could make the place. This world is run by witches and warlocks who figured out how to game the system, turning you into a matrix battery. JT33 says there's great power in mere suggestion. Oh yeah, I think it was Saul Alinsky, the community organizer, who said that politics is downstream from culture. So they knew that if you want to influence somebody's voting decisions, you start feeding them memes and messages through Muppets when they're babies. That's why they give you dinosaurs when you're a kid. You have dinosaurs everywhere. You wear dinosaurs. You watch TV shows, cartoons, talking dinos. Big singing dinosaur to hug you, Barney. And then as soon as you learn how to talk, they say, oh, dinosaurs are dead. A big rock fell from the sky, hit this ball that we live on, and killed them all. Extinction. So your first word may not have been extinction, but it's mass extinction is one of the first concepts that you were taught to understand. No more dinosaurs. They've been wiped out. Charles Wilhite says, check out the book Real Magic by Dean Radin, Ph.D. Echo Charlie says, divine mandate to rule is not a vibe. Nope. Unless you accept Pope Francis as the vicar of Christ, that, yeah, God couldn't do any better than that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to pick somebody to be my representative on earth. It's going to be that out of touch commie in that big building surrounded by who knows how many homeless people. I mean, the wealth disparity. Charles Wilhite says Whoopi Goldberg's real name is Karen. Is that a coincidence? Evolving Grace says, speaking of synchronicities, I have nonstop ones for a few years. It's like The Truman Show. Now, The Truman Show is an example of a movie that I think describes or shows what it's like to have a synchronicity. Was it a coincidence that the meteor fell? And you think it's kind of a synchronicity for him. It's a meaningful coincidence that the dog star falls and it precipitates this awakening. And then he starts noticing patterns. But you find out that his reality is being tampered with. Huxley says, didn't Alinsky also say that ridicule is the most powerful weapon? Yeah, I think in the Rules for Radicals he talked about the use of ridicule. It's all about the underdog taking on the system. All right, let's continue. On the screen, you're looking at a portal. This is from last night's Donda 2. So the Donda release party happened last night on 222, which is described as Portal Day, which I didn't know. Apparently Kanye West knows. So his presentation, his concert listening party starts off with a big portal. Well, listen to this. This is from moonomens.com. The significance and power of 22, 22, 22 in numerology. I'm not going to read it. I don't care about numerology necessarily. However, this number has long been associated with this concept, so I just found it to be noteworthy that Kanye's Donda Experience performance has a big portal. And as we watched, it was very alchemical. Sun, moon. Of course, they were performing in a big concert arena that was dark, like a blackout. It looked like it was blacked out. And then you had the floor covered in water. And I was like, I hope nobody drops the mic. They could all be electrocuted. But they had rain boots. But that makes me think, okay, flood. Flood, blackouts. And then they have this house that burns. And remember, last time they did this, Kanye West set himself on fire. Well, the significance there, that was on the anniversary date of the Burning Man festivals. I mean, what are the odds? They burned the house on the stage, and the way it burned, and I have images of all this stuff, it split in the middle, which made it look like they were trying to depict this idea of a house divided. Okay, I have so much to go through now. There's just quite a lot, so I want to go ahead and stay on track, but let me play this. So, South Pole is our cartoon, Infinite Plane Society. We've been putting this thing together. We're working on season 2. And a lot of our ideas somehow show up in South Park. I think it's just because we're drawing from the same meme pool. But more and more, it seems like every time I look at South Pole, they're getting more and more like what we're doing. Like on this channel, we've been openly mocking and ridiculing this New World Order religion, where science has replaced religion. Holy water, hand sanitizer, virus is the sin, global warming, wrath of God, COVID's your devil, original sin is your carbon footprint. Heaven is now outer space. Transcendence is something you do digitally. So we have this new religious paradigm. You got to be saved by the vax. Well, look. Here you have Oh My Science. This is South Park, God Go, Supercut.
What in science's name was that? It's the United Atheist Alliance! Oh, science, help us! Science? Damn you, Unified Atheist League! Who are they? Jesus Christ! You believe in
Science, damn you, praise science. Anyway, just...
But it wasn't until he met his beautiful wife.
So we're looking at science as religion, and this is pretty much what they have done. And again, my contention is that the television is the new pulpit. Not just the news media, but the entirety of it. The monolithic worldview you get from the TV. That's your Bible. And anything that doesn't come from your TV is extra canonical. It ought to be burned, censored. People should be penalized for publishing it. This is what they're doing right now. The censorship agenda is truly about this purification of our minds, purification of the Bible of the day. I think we're living through a sort of a Council of Nicaea moment here. They're assembling the new Bible, getting rid of the books that don't match up, As in, we got to get rid of fake news, got to get rid of conspiracy theories, got to get rid of things that don't fit the program that they already had to put into place. Science, damn you. And look, this is something else to consider. The person who's asking, is the world flat? Is it a ball? The person who's asking the question is more scientific than the person who just believed whatever they heard and never questioned it. Science is not a belief system. It's a methodology for figuring things out. And I think that's what people miss here. By the way, yesterday on 222 whatever, there was a headline on Drudge about Russia hacking into our satellites. Space wars, in other words. So cyber hacking, Russian military possibly taking these things down. Well, listen to this. This is from Random Fake Name. The last episode of Season 2 of Space Force is about Russia hacking U.S. satellites, bringing them down, blaming it on U.S. incompetence. And finally, the last scene is an asteroid hitting the Earth. Here's another interesting coincidence. Charles Wilhite posted this one. There's a sitcom in the 70s called Room 222. It ran for 113 episodes. Cals Huxley says, I hear a lot about space bioscience. I interpret it as inner space is the final frontier after all. Echo Charlie says, interest in the afterlife consumed the Egyptians. Well, I think it's a carrot on a stick. I think that digital transcendence and immortality is something that you will never get, but they'll convince you of it. Just like every religious system out there promises the way, and their way is just another one of these long cons that they use to guide you like a donkey chasing that carrot. Now, as far as the Dawn Day 2 event, let me go through some more of the pictures from the thing. It wasn't bad. As a release party, I thought it was pretty good. I was impressed by the theater of it, the theatrics. You had a lot of interesting imagery. It seemed like goo blood. Everyone's wearing black uniforms, black helmets. Yeah, black helmets was a thing. With opaque lenses, like black iPhone screens over their eyes. I think it's all significant. Marching around like zombies. Loss of autonomy, like ants or drones. None of that is coincidental. But as far as like if I had to make a review or say if I liked it or if it was bad or good or whatever, I guess I would have to say this, that CERN needs to hire Kanye West to do their next portal opening ceremony. So yes, this is not CERN. This wasn't a CERN ritual. This was a Kanye release party. Marilyn Manson was there. Again, I believe Marilyn Manson has a very specific role to play, and it has to do with his name, Manson, his correlation to Westworld, because the whole thing, Dawn Day 2, the burning of the house represents the West. It represents Western chauvinism. It represents the past that they're destroying in this revolution. That's why you have the Westworld tie-in, and then Kanye West, and then of course we talked about the tower that was burning in the Bronx, the Northwest Tower, the 19-story on 919 that had 19 people supposedly die in it. The space heater started that one. Again, another space reference. But no, the reason they brought Marilyn Manson is because of this tie-in also to 1969 and Charles Manson. And also, more importantly, Charles Manson's agenda, his whole purpose was Helter Skelter. So Helter Skelter is a race war. It's like Turner Diaries. And the idea of these killings was if we kill these people and blame it on the Black Panthers, we can cause an apocalyptic war. Manson spoke to members of the family. And by the way, the guy who owns the house, the Charles, where the killings happened, is the guy from Full House. This might also be a tie-in here, because think about the significance of the house. So you have Full House, and then you have the Charles Manson killings happening in the mansion. Here it is. Full House creator Jeff Franklin has the mansion that is built on the property where the murders took place, and he's selling it right now. So the Full House creator has that house, and it's selling for $85 million. There's probably some symbolism and stuff within the numbers there. The whole thing was obviously a psyop. Sharon Tate and the others being killed, or rather supposedly killed. I mean, it looks like a movie, a horror movie. Interesting Church of Satan tie-ins. Susan Atkins, topless dancer for the Church of Satan, of which Marilyn Manson is a high priest. So you have a Marilyn Manson Church of Satan tie-in connecting him to, of course, member Susan Atkins, who did these Manson killings, and is all done in the style of Rosemary's Baby, a Polanski film. And his wife was murdered, of course, and one of the victims was Rosemary LaBianca. Now, Helter Skelter, of course, race war. That's the main thing I want to bring up here. Charles Manson had been predicting race war, and the term Helter Skelter is a reference to this. According to this, the idea would be this. This is all. Let me move past the race war part, because you know this, it ties into that, but also later he got into this idea of environmentalism and the need that we're running out of air. Let me bring that up. There's a time when Charles Manson was about to get married to some goth, and she'd go hang out with him, and they would sit there talking about how we're going to run out of air. Here it is. Testimony of Paul Watkins. During your association with Charles Manson, I'll go through this stuff later, but my point being, this is Charles Manson, Marilyn Manson tie-in. Maybe there's one more I can bring up. So you have the LaBianca killings. The name LaBianca. So you got Manson and LaBianca. Now take the name Bianco, just change the A for the O, and you get another set of news stories. Evan Rachel Wood, and then you have a woman named Bianco suing Marilyn Manson. Esme Bianco. So I'm just saying the name there, Bianca, Bianco, A.O. The documentary is called Phoenix Rising, and it's about Marilyn Manson and his abuse of all these women. So this is just now getting out, as of like right now, today. Yesterday it came out. It says Manson has been largely absent from the public eye since the allegations surfaced, aside from working alongside Kanye, or Ye, on the album Donde, and then being at the listening party. Again, this is a Westworld tie-in with Marilyn Manson to a Kanye West event, and Westworld centers around a house. And she's the one who leads the uprising, and of course brings about the destruction of this Westworld. So what I think we're looking at here with Marilyn Manson's role, I don't even know if these accusations are real. I would say, if anything, we're looking at a scripted tale. Smoke and Mirror says, we live here right near the LaBianca house. Well then, okay, another thing too, AO, you think Alpha and Omega. And then with this Charles Manson narrative of Helter Skelter, it's really about the end of the world, like apocalypse. And I was speaking to Micah Dank this morning. He was talking about astrotheology, the usual stuff he talks about, but he was talking about Aquarius, and Aquarius being referred to as man's son. And so man's son is kind of interesting, as that we're entering the age of Aquarius, or we just entered it. So Aquarius, end of the world, apocalypse, Manson, all ties into this with the destruction of Westworld, or Western Civ, Western chauvinism, that thing that makes it so we can't breathe. Commenter says Charles Manson died on 119. Oh, 1119. Right, 1119. Now, on the anniversary date of the Manson killings, the guy that did the spearing of his children, his initials MC, Matthew Coleman. They reversed it because the establishment is on the other side of the political spectrum now. You got these right-wing hippies. Now it's the right-wing hateful hippies doing yoga. It's not the liberal left. They switched these things. So now you got this right-wing Charles Manson figure. And they introduced him in the form of Matthew Coleman and the QAnon shaman. You see, Matthew Coleman doesn't have anything with Q associated with him except for these stories they say he was told by Q. Like Manson told me to do it. Q told me to do it. Well, Matthew Coleman, the guy who killed his kids, doesn't look like somebody who would kill his kids. He doesn't look like a Charles Manson. But you know who does? The QAnon shaman. Who does what? Runs around with a spear. So here you have a guy who kills his children with a spear because Q told him to. Then you have the QAnon shaman. Q sent me. And so if you ask me, what they've done is they've introduced the face of Q as a QAnon shaman, this wild man, this hippie, this, again, shaman, hippie, Charles Manson, shaman, hippie. And then, of course, the atrocity was done at behest of Q with a spear. And he stabbed his kid 17 times because of Q. Because, of course, the kid was a reptile. QAnon told him about the reptiles and that you have to kill the reptoids. So these are all ridiculous stories. You know, just go into the logic behind it. It's like there is nothing about reptilians in the QAnon narrative. But now this is something that you might find interesting. Because the symbol of the spear in the hands of the QAnon shaman, the symbol of the spear in the hands of this guy killing his kid, and one of the symbols that the QAnoners love to share is this symbol. And this is from George News, who's actually Q. Believe it or not, I mean, you will eventually, it's going to come out, but they constantly share the symbol of St. George spearing the dragon on the ground. So this idea of the spear being the symbol of Q, highly significant. Okay, let me continue. Smoke and Mirror here says, Katy Perry, aka JonBenet Ramsey, lives just above the La Bianca house in a monastery she stole from some nuns. Yeah, Kate Perry is JonBenet Ramsey. If you have any doubts about that, look at the parents. The parents are not even bothering to change anything. I think the father shaved his head and got his ears pierced, but that's about it. All right, let me continue going through my notes. Mr. Most Woke says 322. The whole month of March will be a psyop, he says. There won't be another 322. Yeah, he's suggesting it's too obvious. They did the King Supers killing on 322, then 322 days later, there's like another shooting. Go find the others folded up a $2 bill. Because it turns out the $100 bill folded up shows you a space needle with an EMP above it. The $20 bill folded up gives you 9/11. Well, the $2 bill gives you what appears to be an owl. But I guess what we had found was the $100 bill has a clock pointed at 222 on it. Now, the world didn't end yesterday, but I don't think it was meant to. I think what we're looking at is Hades' return signifies the release of the Kraken. And if I had to guess, like when Kraken, I would probably say Kraken on Wednesday. And the reason I say so is that, well, no, Thursday, the 24th. Because the father of Amir Locke said 22 days of peace. What happens after that 22 days of peace? Bob CZZ says, I just listened to your interview with Jordan Maxwell. He said you were a Jesuit gatekeeper. He won't touch on how everything is fake. He thinks the JFK assassination was real, but he has good information on how words are used. If you look at his profile pic, he gives Masonic hand signs. Good job on the interview. I just wish you would have talked about more of the fakery. Okay, so when I discuss these topics with people who've been in it for decades, I always keep in mind that the cutting edge information that we've received in the last 5 years has been a major paradigm shift. And if you spent most of your life married to the paradigm where this event happened in a certain way, it's like changing religions. We're talking about a major worldview shift from everything on the news is true, but it's worse than they say and they're lying about some things. That's different from none of it's true. It's all a story. And it's not that it's all fake, it's just that it's not reporting, and that the primary purpose is narrative. They never let facts get in the way. But there is some reporting that happens here and there, I've heard. I mean, I think the weatherman was right a couple months ago. I can't recall. Has anybody here been able to use the news in any predictive way? No, I don't think so. But that's nice. Yes, I'm not a Jesuit gatekeeper. I don't think. I don't know who it is leaving these manila envelopes stuffed with cash at my house whenever I don't mention the Jesuits. Not sure who's doing that. Okay, I got another message here. This is from Boring NPC. Yeah, if you email me at timosmond007, I get all the emails and I respond. Or if I can't respond, I will bring it up live. Okay, so Boring NPC. He says, in literature, authors sometimes hide the main story within the story. An example would be a Christ figure with the initials JC, such as Jim Casey in Grapes of Wrath. Right, like John Connor, Terminator, written by James Cameron. The JC, Jim Carrey, often plays Christ archetypes. Definitely. He says, you've noted that the Metascript writers seem to be well versed in literature and culture, so they're probably Ivy Leaguers who have a universe of material to draw on from novels, the Bible, history, film, and TV. So he has a list here. He says, I've been building up a list. You're welcome to take or leave as you see fit. Thanks. Boring NPC. So he has 7 things we need to look into here. David Bowie, DB42. I think you know this. Yep. David Bowie, DB42, man who fell to earth. There's another correlation between the falling and number 42. David Bowie is very heavily integrated into the whole space odyssey that we've all been through. I'd say what's more, David Bowie's music was played during the first music video in space. His music was used with the Tesla Roadster. And the Tesla Roadster had a David Bowie song playing, and it had a reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was Don't Panic. And again, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is all about the number 42. And the meaning of it in that movie has to do with this AI or intelligent God computer brain. But again, the driver in the Tesla Roadster, nothing Tesla Roadster, I think that, didn't Bowie play, I think it was in a movie, did he play the character Tesla? But anyway, the guy in the driver's seat was called Mr. Satan. No, Starman, excuse me. Starman, a David Bowie song. Anagram for Mr. Satan. Again, man who fell to earth. Okay, next one he brings up, Colin Kaepernick, CK311. Yep, born on 11/3. Colin Kaepernick, CK. And he was working with the beauty queen Chesley Christ on the set of Colin in black and white. Again, 311. He was, okay, who shot, here's another one here. A House Divided was the final episode of season 3 of the show Dallas. According to Wikipedia, it's the second highest rated TV show in history. And it aired on 3/21/1980. So this year will be its 42nd anniversary. Okay, this is probably significant here. A House Divided from the TV show Dallas, being the highest rated TV show in history, and its 42nd anniversary of A House Divided is coming up. And this stands out to me because when I was looking at this Kanye West thing, and I'll bring up some pictures now, I was noticing that the burning house looked like a house divided, which is a speech given by President Lincoln. So there's some Lincoln connections here. Of course, Civil War. Okay, here are some pictures from the event, and this is the picture where it looks like the house is split. So you can see it's not a total immolation. The house is literally split in the middle with this fire, with this light. Yep. Coyote Smoke and Mirror says, you're right. Kate Perry and John Benet Ramsey's parents are the same. The mom had some eye lifts, and the father shaved his head and had some nose surgery. Yeah, it's just a hipper version of their younger selves. The mom didn't even change her hair. All right, let us continue. Smoke and Mirror asks, I wonder who the skeleton is in the spacesuit in the Tesla Roadster. Right. Well, speaking of Bowie, the Bowie album that was posthumously released, or no, actually he died right after its release, or fake died. A whole other story there. But there's a video for one of the tracks, I think it's Black Star, where you have an astronaut on the moon who's basically a skeleton. And that's Major Tom from Space Oddity, which happens to be the first song or music video performed in space. Yes, David Bowie did play Tesla in The Prestige. That's a connection. Directed by Christopher Nolan, the same guy that made the Dark Knight movies. Now, Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight. Well, Dark Knight has the use of the bat as Phoenix, which is very significant. Because, again, the Phoenix is a symbol of the reset. Burn down, build back better. Well, what was the catalyst for this reset? What was the spark that started this fire? You know, it was the bat soup. Not properly heated to the recommended 160 degrees for wild game. Okay, here's another image from the Donde event with